mind-expanding sundown sporting discourse for witches, kebab van owners...
You want some chilli sauce with that?
...and washed-up burglars too fat to fit through your cat flap.
You great fat thieving lumper lad!
Cult listening worth staying awake for. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll read that again. Oh no, I was right the first time. The two mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
You and your time obsession always kills off the programme.
Well, there's nothing to do with that. It's because you spent so much time slagging me off for my alleged bad habits.
Smoke, smoke, smoke that cigarette.
When are we going to be able to literally build a bridge between Earth and the Moon?
You've never worked for a broadsheet paper, have you?
Yes, I have.
Point that out.
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Have I?
Have you? No, you haven't. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Good to be with you again as the week marches on.
It does indeed.
The Benteke deal looks as though now it's been done.
It does.
Looks as though it's been done. And yet, Brendan Rodgers, listening to him earlier today on the other side of the world, where are Liverpool at the moment? I've forgotten.
They were down in Australia, I think.
Australia, that's right. Saying that, you know, you'll not talk about players who are not at my club. I do not want to talk about. I do not want to talk about players who are coming to my club or leaving my club.
Right.
I only want to talk about players who are at my club.
Right.
I wouldn't kind of admit
and so
that
if you
Benteke...
say, is Mario Balotelli at your club?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about that either.
No, he doesn't want to talk about it. No, exactly. And I think, you know, within seconds, Benteke was announced as a Liverpool player. So I'm not quite sure what that is. Is that some sort of defensive barrier against, you know, saying something which will later been held to account?
Maybe so, yeah, maybe
or
so.
something like that. You know?
Maybe he wasn't made aware yet that he'd actually signed a deal and he was being pictured in a shirt and it was going to be plastered all over the papers.
Do you think if he says, you know, I think Benteke will be an outstanding Liverpool player of the future, and he's not, then he'll be held to account?
Well, look what happened with Raheem Sterling. As soon as he said he was the greatest young player in the world or something like that, and then suddenly, you know, he was leaving.
And look what happened, you know, when Balotelli arrived, everybody in the world said he's going to be very hard to handle, you know. But Brendan Rodgers' view at the time, I remember him saying it, was, you know, this is a young man with fantastic ability to fit in at Liverpool football. This club is one of the biggest in the world.
Well, he's not wrong about that, is he?
Well, no, he's not wrong about that, I agree.
Why are you making fun of Brendan Rodgers relentlessly?
I'm not making
yes,
fun.
You are.
No, I'm not. I just thought it would add a bit of flavour to the programme.
Well, it does.
I mean, we can't actually get Brendan Rodgers on because he's on the other side of the world.
That's right.
The next best thing is for me to do an almost pitch-perfect impersonation of what he said.
You make him sound much more miserable than he actually is.
Using the dialect that he actually used today. So now I resent you telling me I'm trying to make fun of anybody. I don't make fun of people. I have mutual respect in life for the world's other people.
Right. Well, on the back of the Daily Mail, there's a great big picture of Christian Benteke standing there with his new Liverpool shirt on. Yes. That's the Liverpool crest. So you'd think that must have been taken quite a few hours ago.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, when I see that Liverpool crest, and I'm just thinking aloud here, where the green...
Like a quiz, you know.
Where the green came from in Liverpool's badge.
What, you mean because You'll Never Walk Alone is white on green. Yeah. Underneath the little ribbon is green.
Yeah.
Established 1892.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, in the 60s, you know, when we were all growing up in that part of the world.
Everything was in black and white then.
Everything was in black and white, but Liverpool's badge was very simple. The whole of the strip was red, and they had this big white egg-shaped badge, with a liver bird inside it. Yeah, and there were no other colours.
It was only red and white.
Yeah, it was only red and white, Right. And I remember, actually, funny enough, I had a mate at the King's School Chester, and his name was...
Don't give his name away.
No, it's okay, don't worry.
You don't have to give his name away.
No, it's nothing. This is a positive story. His name was Fairclough, as in Alan.
Yeah.
And, of course, we called him Fluff, because the very popular DJ at the time was that Australian guy, you know, and his name was Fluff, wasn't he?
Here's a series of Liverpool's different badges going back through the ages. So the green may have been added relatively recently then.
Yeah, I think it has.
You remember that one there, right? The red one.
Let me have a look there. That would be
with the red live bird inside a white background.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where the green came from. But anyway, so old Fluff Fairclough, was quite a bright lad, and he came from a good middle class home. And he was an absolutely rabid Liverpool supporter. Yeah. I mean, you never met anybody like this, you know. And there were a lot of those in school. There were rabid Liverpool supporters, Manchester United, Everton, few Manchester City, some Leeds United. But, you know, Liverpool, Everton and Manchester United dominated. Right. When he was about sort of 15 or 16, he announced that he was going to leave school.
Right.
And nobody left the King's School Chester at 16.
No.
I mean, it wasn't a secondary modern.
O-levels or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a secondary modern or anything like that. And no disrespect to secondary moderns, but that was the normal leaving age for somebody who was at a secondary modern who wanted to go and pursue a trade, which is a very, very worthy thing to do. Bricklayer, plumber, something like that. Yeah. So he suddenly, it was unbelievable, he suddenly announced he's leaving. I said, why are you leaving? He said, because to be a true Liverpool supporter, you've got to be a member of the working classes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be a plumber.
Right.
And his mum and dad were horrified. His father was an accountant or something,
right.
You know what I mean? Lived in, quite a decent, detached house in a place called Upton near Chester. Next time I saw Fluff, after he left school, he was walking across the Town Hall Square in Chester with a very attractive lady in tow. Yeah. But he had one of those denim jackets on, like a Levi denim jacket. Yeah. And he had the biggest Liverpool badge,
right. You'd ever seen.
The oval egg one with the red sewed to one side of his jacket.
Right.
And the two things struck me there. One, it was so totally out of character for a boy who'd come from the King's School Chester.
Yeah.
But secondly, I'm not joking, in those days there was still a lot of football violence around and you simply did not advertise who you supported because you had a very, very strong chance of getting your head kicked in any night.
By being in the wrong part of town.
Well, just
or the wrong town.
Just in the wrong town or the wrong night and a group of United fans were there or something like that. But amazing boy, and I wonder what ever became of him because he was the most fanatical football fan of any individual team. I mean, I was a big Everton fan, but I didn't leave school at 16 because I wanted to be a member of the working classes to prove I was an Evertonian.
No, well, you don't want to be a member of the working classes anyway, do you?
Oh, you are? I'm a member of the working classes,
you're
actually.
not.
Yes, I am.
This is this ludicrous idea that you have that if you work, you're a member of the working classes.
That's I do believe that. I do believe that.
You aspire to be upper middle class.
No.
You've said it many times.
No.
That's why you have the roof garden. That's why you have the penthouse. That's why you have the fan that you can't fit into your roof. That's why you have the Mercedes.
I don't aspire to be a member of the upper middle class. I just happen to be a member of the upper middle class. Yeah, I can't help that.
Well,
I can't help
that. Is that?
I just kind of naturally morphed into that sort of
well, that's why you went
to
the Trent Polytechnic.
No.
That might sort of advance your attempts to clamber up the social ladder.
No, I went to the University of the Trent and then decided pretty damn quickly after that I wanted to be a member of the working class, i.e. get out and work. I've been working all my life.
Really?
I bet you didn't have a paper round when you were 11.
No, I worked.
I did.
No, but I was an altar boy.
I used to an altar boy. What a joke that is.
Why is that a joke?
Your fat cherubic little face in a
I wasn't that fat.
In a what do they call those white things? A cassock. Yeah. Dear me, I can't remember. Have you got any pictures of that, by the way?
I'm not sure if I have actually.
See if you can find one. It would give us all a huge laugh.
Right. I mean, I used to do weddings at the weekend and used to make a load of money because weddings people actually pay the altar boys and the priests and all that to actually.
And how much did the choir get?
There was very rarely a choir. There was just generally.
I thought you said you were a choir boy.
No, I said an altar boy.
Oh, what's an altar boy do?
An altar boy is the guy is one of the people on the altar.
Did you hold the cross?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depended if it was a Latin mass or not.
Oh, I see. Right.
But you had to put the vestments out for the priest. You had to kind of be the priest's right-hand man, effectively.
Well, you sometimes, quite ridiculously.
I once burnt a hole in the floor of the altar, actually.
How?
Well, those things called thurables. You might not know anything about this because
a thurable is that the thing that they wave around,
like the incense in it? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And start chanting.
And it's like the All Blacks.
And smoke comes out of it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's it's incense. Yeah, it's sort of perfumed smoke.
Yeah,
and so
I think that's very creepy.
Well, why do you think it's creepy?
Well,
why are you insulting people's religion now?
I saw it once in a Russian Orthodox church, and I thought, crikey, any minute now the Soviet army will arrive and shoot all these people.
What were you doing at a Russian Orthodox church?
I was with a bunch of Russian rebels.
Really?
And it was about a year before the wall fell, and the Russian Orthodox Church started getting mouthy again. And I was over there with Peter Hitchens, actually, our Russian correspondent from the Daily Express.
Yeah.
And he said, "Come on, columnist. Now columnist." He said, "Come on, we're going to a church service tonight. We went to this church service, and like thousands of people turned up because there was a new.
Did you have any wine there?
No, I didn't know there was a new perestroika. No, I went off and drank some banana vodka later.
Right.
But so how did you burn the hole?
Well, so you have to have there's like a sort of a little tablet of charcoal, if you like, that you have to set fire to. And once you set fire to that, then you drop the incense in on the top of it.
Yeah.
But it's quite a complicated thing because you have to hold it. It's like it's got the base of it is kind of down there, and then there's chains that connect it up to the part that you control. And you have to put your fingers through one bit, and you have to use your pinky to make it go up and down, right?
Yeah.
And somehow I managed to flip it upside down.
Excellent.
Just before the priest was due to do it, and the charcoal fell out. And I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Because it was too hot to pick up.
Should have stood on
and
it.
it just burnt. Well, no, it was like a big sort of, pebble of charcoal.
Yeah.
And it burned a great big hole in the parquet flooring on the altar.
God, they're vandalising a church.
Yeah,
That's a mortal sin.
And I handed the thing to the priest to do and there was no smoke coming out of it.
Yeah.
And he gave it back to me.
I'm not surprised.
He said, "You sure it's doing this right?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure."
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Actually, talking about having... I know, just wait a minute. Having a job so young in life, when I was 11 or 12, now you sometimes take the mickey out of me quite falsely because you say I'm not tall enough. My mum is certain that my growth was stunted by carrying around 80 copies of the Cheshire Observer every Friday in two newspaper bags.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be so greedy.
I'm not joking. They were so heavy.
Yeah.
I felt like a pack horse, a pack donkey.
Right.
And then I had to get on my bike, and literally you could see the tyres straining under the weight.
An accident.
I was lucky I didn't cause an accident. I'm telling you, it was I'm sure I've got curvature of the spine now because of doing that when I was a kid, and I'm still growing.
Serves you right for not doing the sort of things that children should have been doing instead of trying to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, what should they have been doing?
Well, you should have been doing a bit more sort of playing, should have been more reading, should have a few more friends to play with.
I wanted to earn money to buy all my Airfix kits, and I used to get a hot needle and punch holes in the side of my Messerschmitt to show the RAF had shot them. What are you laughing at?
That's pathetic.
Everybody
I'll be
did.
talking more about Messerschmitt
Everybody did.
A bit later. No, everybody didn't.
They did.
And I certainly didn't. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It would be good actually to find out from some Liverpool fans where this green ribbon thing came from.
Yeah,
the Liverpool
it
badge.
would actually. Yeah.
I mean, I was telling you that my sister was a big Liverpool fan.
Yes.
When we were kind of in our formative years.
Yes.
Remember, you used to collect those enamel badges.
Oh yeah.
And I used to have quite a few Man United ones. I was a bit of a Man United fan, and she had loads of Liverpool ones. And you'd go to these games and you'd see people with lapels literally covered in
exactly,
them.
yeah.
And I don't remember any of them having any green in them. I think they were all red and white.
No, believe me, it was red and white, and like for instance, Leeds United, believe it or not, used to be yellow, blue, and white. Their kit, and then it went to all white, and then it's sort of gone back. Manchester United, we didn't know for years they had black in their kit until that was revived when George Best started wearing black and sort of white socks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where those metal badges, my memories from my childhood. Where you saw most of those, we used to go to Butlins for our holidays, right? Because my, it was embarrassing really, because at the King's School Chester, a lot of them went to Mallorca and all that in the early days of package holidays. And, in the last week of term, they'd all boast about, oh, where are you off to? Oh, we're off to Mallorca. Oh, where are you off to? Oh, we're off to Cyprus. Where are you off to? I think one kid's parents were... The son of the chairman of Cunard was in my class. I mean, all that kind of stuff, yeah. And then they'd say, where you go.
That's impressive to you, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, very impressive.
See, to me, that doesn't mean anything.
Very impressive.
Don't care. I couldn't care less.
And then somebody said, oh, Parry, because we call ourselves by surnames, you say, in that sort of school.
Yeah, we did as well.
Oh, Parry.
Yeah, we did that in my school as well.
Where are you off to?
Well, that's because the teachers all called you by surname as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I said, oh, we're going to Butlins in Pathelli. Oh, ho, ho, ho. The rest of the class started laughing. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Only the proletariat go there. And I said, well, it's all right. Everything's free when you get there. And
so
all that
you
kind
never
of stuff.
recovered from that, did you? Being mocked
for
being working class.
I found it hard to bear. And but anyway, the point of the story is when you got there, right, you'd see all these like real old, what my mum and dad used to call the old Nellies, these people who'd been going for 20 years. And they had all these badges, Bognor Regis, 1963, Pathelli, 1964, Filey in Yorkshire, 1965.
What, from Butlins?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, you got all these Butlin badges.
I've never been to Butlins.
They were called campers.
Right.
Every morning, by the way, I know this sounds ridiculous, every morning you were sleeping in this Nissen hut because Billy Butlin had gone and bought all these prisoner of war camps and converted them into holiday camps,
Right.
And every morning you'd hear this, noise coming from literally a speaker. It was like George Orwell, 1984.
Yeah.
And at 7 o'clock it went, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a brand new day today. It's ridiculous. And he used to go on and say, with rain or shine. No, rain or shine, it doesn't matter. It'll always shine on your Butlins holiday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And did you have the same problem there when you went with your two sisters, that you would always have to be a left one, sort of the odd one out?
Well, it was even worse then because, of course, you used to go to the fairground and most of the compartments in the fair rides, in the fairground
for two people.
The two. I was standing on the edges all the time.
So did you have to wait for some stranger stranger randomly to come up so you could get on a ride with
Not really. Most of the time I didn't go on the rides.
You never
I was
went
a
on the
gentleman.
rides?
Well, hardly
God,
ever.
so sad.
Yeah. I
So
used to.
sad.
Sometimes they could crush three of us into the big wheel compartment,
Yeah.
if you see what I mean,
Right.
because they're only, small, little, But most of the time, no, I'm afraid I had to just make the
Shocking, isn't
sacrifice.
it?
Yeah.
Now, let me read
yeah.
you a couple of tweets that have come in strong.
Okay.
You can tweet us at the two mics, at Mike Parry, at
Yeah.
OMG. Georgie says, every night without fail, my baby wakes up when the two mics starts. At least she has
yeah.
good taste.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Here's one from Bill who says, Porky, the cunning linguist, didn't know Frank Carson was managing Liverpool from beyond the grave.
That's
Catherine
a bit
says,
harsh.
why is Porky speaking like MLA Nigel Dodds with a Ballymena accent?
Ballymena. I didn't know it was Ballymena,
And
actually.
Carl says that was a brilliant impression of an Irish Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart.
Now, a couple of people are saying that you're not being very nice about Liverpool. We are trying to find out why Liverpool have got
hang on.
three...
I'm not being unkind about Liverpool,
Well, Liverpool fans are getting chippy about it.
Oh,
so let's
why?
have a word with Terry, who's actually an
Right.
Everton fan, who's up in Merseyside. He wants to talk about John Stones, I think. Terry, very good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, Terry. What
Hi,
do you want to
Terry.
say?
Well, all right, thanks, boys. Well, my question is to both of you. I'm listening to Chelsea spending all kinds of money and Liverpool and Man United. Well, my main point is they're spending millions and millions of pounds on great British talent, right?
Yeah.
But what's wrong with the academies? We're bringing players through Everton, Southampton. We're bringing them through.
Yeah.
But they're spending millions and millions of pounds. They've got more money than Everton.
Yeah.
And more money than Southampton. So why aren't their academies doing the right thing?
Yeah,
Like,
Terry, it's
scout
a great question. You would imagine that if a club's as wealthy as Chelsea and Manchester City are, that they'd have facilities which would mean that, young boys who really wanted a great career would gravitate towards those academies. But how many ever come through? I mean, you're absolutely right.
And if they do come through, they get loaned out anyway, don't they?
They get loaned out. I mean, Everton have got to...
But my problem is, how many great English players have come through Chelsea in the last few years? There's only John Terry.
I totally agree.
Kale from Bolton. But I used to work for the professional football club myself as a scout, right?
Yeah.
For many years, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen players come and go, and scouts, and they go to the coaches, oh, he's not good enough. But that kid gets picked up and then, oh, he's good enough for Everton, or he's not good enough for Blackburn, or he's not good enough for Liverpool. But my point is, Liverpool haven't been bringing kids through for a long time now.
No, I totally agree. I mean, Terry, look at the latest saga of two young players. Raheem Sterling, he didn't come through Liverpool's academy. They got him from QPR.
That's right.
And John Stones didn't come from Everton's academy, although most people think he did. He bought from Barnsley, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. But what I'm saying was, well, why aren't Chelsea or Man United or Liverpool or anyone else picking up on them kids?
Yeah.
Everton are?
I agree. I agree. And the answer
I can
is...
only assume they don't. It's too much like hard work, isn't it? In the end,
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, where's their scouting system? Why aren't they scouting? Instead of spending 49 and 20 and 30 million pounds on players, instead of paying a scout, scouts work for nothing, right? They work for buttons, right?
Yeah.
A scout can work and he gets 500 quid for expenses. That's all a scout gets, right? And no one understands what how hard a scout works and what he does for the club, and they pay him a pittance. You just pay him his travel expenses.
No, that is...
And he has to show receipts. But for me, hang on a minute. But for me, right, instead of paying all them millions of pounds, why don't they pay a scout a decent wage and then go, look, this player's that.
Yeah. I totally agree. Terry, I totally agree with you, and you're absolutely right. Mate of mine's a scout for Southampton, right? And I'm not joking. What Terry's just said is absolutely right. I think you get 30 quid, I'm not joking, for actually going and doing the 90 minutes in a ground.
Right.
And then you have to submit an invoice for your 200 miles of travelling, you know what I mean? And you get 40p a mile or something like that. And then you get, I think, a £7.50 lunch allowance or something like that. But it is.
But the thing
it's
is, Terry, right?
pathetic.
I mean, who are you actually going to be scouting? Because there's a story in one of the papers tonight, right? We forget about the Premier League, forget about John Stones. 14 million quid, supposedly, Middlesbrough are going to pay for Jordan Rhodes to Blackburn. We're talking about Championship here. I mean, it's an awful lot of money, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, what I'm saying here is, right, the amount of money that Man United have got, right, and Chelsea have got, right. And now I know a certain scout at Man United. I'm not going to mention his name. He's one of the
Don't mention his name, whatever you do.
No, don't mention his name.
No, he's a good friend of mine, right? And he puts hours and hours of work in himself, right? But for me, you don't see local lads coming through no more, like at Man United, at Liverpool. You do at Everton, you do at Southampton. Now, Southampton and Everton, for me, I've got one of the best scouting systems in the country.
Yes, right? They have, yeah. Yeah, they have.
Even though, as you said there before, they never come through the Everton system. They went from Barnsley, and they come from their QPR for Sterling, Stones for Barnsley, right? Yeah. But my point is here, right? Why aren't Chelsea and Man United...
Well, I think, Terry, I think...
Letting everyone else do the road.
Yeah, but I think... I think Mike Graham's already answered that, Terry. For Chelsea and Man City, why would they wait 4 years when they can go and steal players from other clubs who've developed them?
And Terry,
and
listen,
that's what they do.
Great point. Thanks very much for calling up. But I mean, if you look at Manchester United in the class of '92, that's the only time that's ever worked.
Yeah.
It's the only time that a team has actually been able to produce more or less the whole kind of, the whole sort of heartbeat of a team from one academy.
Certainly in the Premier League it is. But I mean, without getting too historical, because I don't want to sound like a dinosaur.
That would be ridiculous.
The 1970, for instance, and this wasn't unique in those days. The 1970 Everton team that won the league championship had from their academy Joe Royle, Jimmy Husband, John Hurst, Colin Harvey, Tommy Wright. Howard Kendall was bought from Preston. Alan Ball was bought from Blackpool. Johnny Morrissey, I think he came from Tranmere actually, but at a young age. But they had at least 5. Roger Kenyon was the centre half.
I mean, that was a very different time.
Well, it was, but I'm saying at least 6 players in the team that won it that night against West Brom were homegrown players.
Yeah.
And so, it was a much more prevalent thing in those days than it is now. No,
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it did happen at the class of '92 at Manchester United in the Premier League kind of era.
Yes.
But it hasn't really ever happened since.
No, that's right. I don't think
it will. I mean, we hear all this noise about Chelsea's academy and Manchester City's academy, and they're talking about bringing people in from their, their sister club in New York and their sister club in Melbourne. But in the end, the pressure for them to be a successful team, particularly the top 4, and getting into the Champions League all the time, they need to buy players that they already know that are good.
You get the impression all the time that the academies are basically to provide maybe 4 or 5 players who are good enough to be included in the 25 members of the first team squad, merely to make sure that the club's not breaking the rules on homegrown players.
Well, you'd have to say it's a cynical point of view, but I have to agree with you.
I think that's what they do.
Because, they're supposed to have an academy. It helps as well with all the plans that they've got for expansion.
Yes.
At Manchester City, they can say, look what we've done to the area.
That's
look how much money we've spent. Look at what we're doing for the local community. But actually, they're not really giving anybody any more opportunities at all.
Totally agree. Now, I want to know what you're doing about organisational things, Mike, in this show. Aren't Chelsea supposed to be playing New York Bulls at the moment?
They're New York Red Bulls, yeah.
Right, well,
I can't believe you've forgotten the name. Considering how much Red Bull you drink, you didn't even actually know that was the name.
Excuse me, I knew exactly what it was. So where are the pictures on our internal monitors?
There is no internal monitor coverage of that particular game.
Well, you see, you failed again.
Well, no, I haven't
Can't
failed,
you even organise that?
No, I haven't
Do I have
failed.
to do everything? I have to provide the whole content, the whole production schedule?
Well, I can tell you where it's on if you wish to know.
Yes.
It's on Chelsea TV.
Chelsea TV,
but unfortunately,
right?
I think our subscription's run out, so we don't have Chelsea TV on tonight.
Oh, that's a bit of a nuisance.
It is a bit of a nuisance. Yeah.
Well,
we were able to watch the LA Galaxy Barcelona game last night, but not the Man United game because that was on MU TV.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So I'm terribly sorry to disappoint
you on
Liverpool
that. But we will
TV,
be talking. By the way, is free.
Eh?
Anybody can get Liverpool TV.
No, I don't think it is free. No,
I don't think it is.
You have to subscribe to it.
No, don't.
There's any number of ways of getting certain football matches free.
I'm telling you, Liverpool TV is free.
Are you sure?
I'm sure it's free.
But maybe not for games, though.
Well,
maybe it's only free for interviews.
No, they can't show. They can't show it for games. They haven't got the rights to show it for games. Right. Only the Premier League have got the rights to show it for games.
Yeah, I'm talking about these kind of games that they're playing friendlies.
Oh, yeah, see what you mean. Yeah, right. Okay, the friendlies. Yeah, of course. Yeah, the friendlies. Yeah.
You're starting to get muddled up already.
No, I'm not getting muddled up. I don't get muddled, honestly. Don't worry about that.
Right.
Oh, there we go. Here we are.
Subscribe to LFC TV now and get exclusive breaking news, behind-the-scenes access and match action.
Yes, there you go.
So subscribe.
Yeah, but there was nothing on at this time of night, is there, you idiot?
Adelaide United against Liverpool.
No, it's not on at the moment.
Yeah, it is.
Is
you
it?
Can watch it now if you want.
No,
you have to pay.
3 a.m. Oh, no, that's telly shopping. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Your favourite show.
Yeah, nobody wants to go telly shopping.
You can buy some more garden shears.
Yeah, good idea,
delivered here. Now, how about this one, the Professor?
Buy a lawnmower.
Porky Parry says he goes to church regularly but doesn't know what an altar boy is. Plank of the week.
No. That's not right. There aren't altar boys at the churches I go to. I go to sort of rustic churches.
Rustic?
Rural churches, which don't have, like, huge choirs.
Every Christian church has an altar boy.
Well, I always see the guy walking up the middle with the cross and all that, but it's not usually an altar boy. It's usually a middle-aged guy or an older guy.
It can still be an altar boy. It's nothing to do with his age.
Well, you know what I mean. It doesn't look like an altar boy. But anyway, that's not something you should worry about.
Look at the time. Because
I want to talk to you, by the way. I want to talk to you. I know we've got to watch the time and all that, but
we've got to stop.
I want to talk about this mad experiment at Swansea where players have been given bedrooms at the training ground, but not like a brick-built bedroom, like a pod that's been delivered by a crane over the hedge.
Okay.
So they can go and have a sleep in the middle of training.
Okay,
how mad is that?
Well, we can talk about that, but coming up, we're going to talk to Brian Sciaretta in New York, who's actually watching the New York Red Bulls play Chelsea, so he'll be able to give you an update on it.
So I'm moving to New York, 'cause I've got issues with my sleep. Looks like
is TalkSport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. It is Porkyvision tonight, of course, as well. There's all kinds of football going on. Chelsea are taking on the New York Red Bulls currently. And we're going to talk now to Brian Sciaretta, who's over in New York. He's got some interesting things to say about MLS clubs and English teams going out there.
Yes.
Brian, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mike, for having me on.
No, not at all. I know that the game's underway. I mean, it's supposed to be a New York Red Bulls reserve team, which doesn't seem to make much sense to me. What's going on?
Well, it's quite interesting. Yesterday, the Red Bulls had their U.S. Open Cup match against Philadelphia, which is a real tournament. It's the equivalent of our equivalent of the FA Cup. It's an old tournament. It's actually 101 years old. And it's a serious tournament. And unfortunately, there's a collective bargaining agreement here in that governs Major League Soccer teams, and there's a rule that says players can't play on consecutive days.
Right.
It's just too taxing, too much. So they had a choice to make. Well, do they go for? Do they put their efforts into a friendly against Chelsea, or do they go for their own silverware? Right here in domestic silverware, and they've decided to start every single one of their best players against the Philadelphia Union yesterday, leaving nothing but reserves for Chelsea. And I think that the explanation was a wise one. I agree with it. You can't devalue your own domestic trophies in place of a friendly. It's just no matter who the opposition is.
Brian, that's interesting because we get the feeling over here that we're doing America a favour by sending over all these, top professional teams, some of which are the most famous in the world. Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool come sometimes. Everton go over there. But are they greeted like, the conquering heroes of European football, or is there some resentment that we tend to look down a bit on the American game?
Well, I think it's more, these games do draw big crowds. There's no doubt about it. But, everyone wants to go out and see some of their stars, and it's more of a night out, but it's not greeted with any kind of seriousness. I mean, MLS teams have won some of these games. They've lost some of these games. They pulled some upsets, but, they don't stay in the memory bank that long. They're viewed as by clubs and by coaches and by players as more of an inconvenience than anything. It's just they care more about their own domestic trophies and have to play a friendly midweek while they're these games don't count for anything. And then meanwhile, they're more then all of a sudden they're spent for league games that matter. It's it's mixed. Yes, they draw well and they get good crowds, and that's good for the financial revenue. But coaches have been outspoken about how much of an inconvenience they are, and fans sell their tickets, and there's a lot of tickets available for the New York Red Bulls Chelsea game. You see a lot of these times now, like where, for example, like Barcelona played the Galaxy last night, and Barcelona won 2-1, but they were contractually obligated maybe to play guys like Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard, but they were going at halftime in place of a bunch of younger players.
Sure.
Presumably,
really...
Brian, the point of these exercises is not perhaps for MLS, but it is, and if the fans of MLS don't particularly watch them in large numbers, it's more about the marketing exercise for the English Premier League and the sort of selling of that in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course. The Premier League teams are very anxious to sell their brand. Football is big business in the United States. I mean, for people who want to say like we're not a footballing nation, they spend a lot of effort to come over here and they sell phenomenal amounts of jerseys. The broadcast rights for the Premier League is huge, and it's growing for Major League Soccer too. But in the end of the day, friendlies can only take you so far, meaningful games. That's why they've always talked about the 39th game or whatever it is to bring a meaningful game over, worldwide outside of England and perhaps to the USA, because there's a desire to see something that counts for something beyond just, a friendly or a branding exercise. People are starting to see through that now. And certainly from the MLS point, from the MLS teams, it's one thing when two Premier League teams play against each other. When MLS teams are going now, the seriousness is toned down, as you can see by the Red Bulls not even playing one of their top 14 players tonight. That
seems bizarre, doesn't it? Manchester United are taking on Barcelona on Saturday, and then, of course, Paris Saint-Germain are playing Chelsea. Maybe that's going to be more interesting for people watching back here, perhaps. Let me just ask you, before we let you go, Brian, a couple of FIFA questions, because it looks as though FIFA have now got this reform task force set up after various meetings have been held since all those arrests all those weeks ago. What's happening, if anything, at the New York end of all of these investigations?
No, I mean, it's slowly and methodical and behind the scenes. I mean, it's one of these things that these, as a lawyer, you can kind of see, and myself, I've seen, particularly while observing how things are done in the United States, no news will happen for a couple of weeks. Everyone thinks it's died down, then boom, all of a sudden something big happens. I mean, Jeffrey Webb isn't fighting extradition right now, which is very interesting because of his role in CONCACAF. And CONCACAF was the front line and center with the corruption investigations from by the FBI. So the fact is that some people over here think that if Webb is willing to come over here, he might talk and he might have a lot of information over here, especially because as we saw with the allegations about the awarding of the 2010 games World Cup to South Africa, a lot of that money flowed through CONCACAF. So, oh man, there's got to be probably a lot of nervous people seeing that Webb is over on this side of the Atlantic right now, knowing if he does talk, there's a possibility based on how this investigation has gone that he might have some information that could be very interesting.
Yeah, very much so. Brian, thanks very much indeed. Brian,
thank you very much indeed.
Over in the States. Got a few tweets to read out to you, Mr. Parry.
Okay, good,
before we get stuck into the Swansea story.
Right.
Here's somebody from Kevin in Carnoustie. He says, just back from a great holiday in Wales. Every time I see Chester roadsides, I thought of Porky. Tell Porky Chester is pretty much and very much in Wales. It should be part of Wales.
No, it's not in Wales.
Parry, the surname Welsh. Porky is Welsh, and he says, warm regards.
No, I'm not Welsh, but I do have a great affection for the Welsh people. When we were kids, we used to get into the old Morris Minor and toddle off to Patel. We used to go to Prestatyn.
Yeah.
Prestatyn Rill and a place called Talacca Beach.
Oh, yeah.
And Talacca Beach, I don't know why it was called Talacca, except it was covered in oil once when we went there. So I don't know if there's anything,
Was that because of the Torrey Canyon disaster?
No, that was down in Cornwall, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember that one.
But Frith Beach was the beach we used to go to, and that was sand dunes, and that was a beautiful beach, honestly. That was absolutely lovely. Used to love it around there. Used to love walking around on the beach, when the tide had gone out and there were all those ribs in the sand. It was great.
Yeah, all right.
I've got nothing against the Welsh. Welsh are good people.
That's very kind of you.
I just don't happen to be Welsh, that's all.
All right. F says this. Porky's gone up in my estimation. More Brendan Rodgers, please. It's certainly better than his Sean Connery. And Forrest says...
That's a bit harsh.
I did a paper round for 250 Bristol homes between the ages of 11 and 14. I'm now 6'3". At least be a bigger man figuratively.
No. On a Friday, when the weekly... I used to do the daily papers in the morning. I used to do the evening papers, the Manchester Evening News and the Liverpool Echo in the evening.
Right.
But on a Friday, when the local weekly papers came out, and there were two in those days, there was the Chester Chronicle, which I went on to work for, my first job in newspapers, and the Cheshire Observer, which was the country one. They were so big and so thick, you had to haul these things around in these huge canvas bags. And I mean, you had to be like very, very strong to do it.
Hulk-like.
And I used to put one bag on the front of my bike on the steering wheel, what was it called? The handlebars. And one on the back, which used to weigh down on the mudguard on the wheel at the back.
Yeah.
And it was hell getting up hills and things.
No, you're not getting sympathy from me.
No, I should get... I'm not even saying that. I'm just telling you how tough I was to do it.
Well, you weren't very tough at all, because you now claim it stunted your growth.
Well, I'm not saying that. My mother thought it did for some time.
Well, there's a lot of things that we could say about that, but we haven't got time, unfortunately. We've run out. Coming up, we're going to talk about Swansea's new idea for helping their players relax. Talk Sport.
Mad.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport, the world's biggest sports radio station, the home of live football. Coming up later on, it's Porkyvision, of course. I hope, Mr. Parry, you've been watching plenty of television over the last few days.
Yes, I have, yes.
In order to...
I've got some great theories on Porkyvision tonight, some great reports to tell you about, some great TV over the last 7 days, which you will be fascinated by.
I will be. I'm looking very much forward to it. Yeah. Now, tell me about this Gary Monk story that you've unearthed.
Well, I think it's mad. And now, Gary Monk, right, towards the end of last season, did Swansea finish 8th, by the way?
I can't remember.
Yeah, 8th or 9th, something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody was heaving praise on Gary Monk, what a guy. But
he had a great season.
He had a great season. I totally agree, and I'm not knocking it. But amongst the things that people
say, upset people in Wales.
Exactly. That this man was very thorough in everything he did. And he worked like 16 hours a day from the time he got up to the time he went to bed. He was constantly on the job. If he wasn't with the boys training, he was scouting. He was looking at doing deals. He was studying physiology, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, one thing he seems to have done now is he's bought these 30 what are called snooze boxes, and they've gone to Swansea's training ground, which is called the Landora, apparently. I've never been there. And
you've never been to Swansea?
I've never been to Swansea, actually, I don't think.
Really?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I might have gone there years ago. But
Swansea finished 16th.
Did they?
No, they didn't. No.
No.
That's not right.
Anyway, while you're seeking that out, now the point is, what happens is halfway through training, these players can go and have a snooze in the snooze box because it's big enough to put a double bed in. They've all been fitted out with double beds.
Okay.
It's a door and a room with a bed in it. The players can go straight in, have a lie down.
Well, what's it made of? This thing then? Is it like
it's
a
a
sort
blow
of
up.
hard plastic?
No, it's a blow up.
Oh, it's a blow up.
It's a blow up.
Oh,
It's a blow up. Yeah, or when I say a blow up, it's a inflatable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Gary Monk is saying that he and the coaching staff are leaving nothing to chance, employing a host of new statistics-based training techniques and state-of-the-art sports science technology as they look to improve on their 8th place finish last season.
They did, yeah, 8th place between Southampton and Stoke.
Yeah.
Very sort of creditable, really.
Of course, it's very credible. Now, Johnny,
creditable, not credible.
Well, it's both.
Creditable.
It's both.
Well, it's not credible, is it?
Of course it's credible. It's a credible performance.
Well, no, it's a fact.
Yeah.
So, therefore, it doesn't have to be credible or incredible.
All right. Well, look, stop arguing about one letter in a word.
All right.
Right, Johnny Northeast. That's a great name, isn't it? Johnny Northeast.
Johnny Northeast.
Yeah, Johnny Northeast.
Brother of the famous Ronald Northeast.
Yeah, and cousin of Johnny Northwest. Johnny North... That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah, I got that.
Johnny Northeast, Swansea's head of sports science, reveals how the club are using progress reports on every player to track down... to track how their fitness levels are getting on. The snooze boxes, Northeast explains... Pre-season is where the volume of work is at its highest, so it's important we try and provide the players with as many recovery strategies as we can in order to get the best out of them on the pitch. Now, I'm sorry, but Johnny Northeast does not understand the psychology of sleep.
Right.
And the psychology of sleep is that you sleep best when you are in your familiar surroundings. You can't
that's
sleep.
possibly true.
You can't sleep when you go into a snooze box in the middle of a field, which is your training ground. You only feel safe and secure in your sleep in familiar surroundings.
This is you speaking. This is what you're saying. That it may be affecting you, but it doesn't affect anybody else. I mean,
it affects everybody.
I can sleep pretty much anywhere. And I'm a great believer. We were talking yesterday about the Spanish and the siesta mentality and all that.
That's right.
I'm a great believer in power napping. I'm a great believer in catching a few
it makes you sluggish,
if you can. No, I don't think it does.
Makes you sluggish.
No, it doesn't. It can be very refreshing.
No.
In fact, this morning I did that exactly because I got down to Sussex at just about 8 o'clock.
Right.
And I had about sort of 20 minutes of a window before I had to go to the school to watch this assembly.
Yes.
And I was quite tired, and I thought if I just, close my eyes for 10 minutes, I'm going to feel better. And I did.
Yes.
And I felt a lot better.
Right, really?
Yeah.
OK, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't sleep for more than an hour without waking up anyway. And when you told me the other day that you actually managed to go home, lie down on the bed and sleep for 6 hours, I mean, I'd be dead if that happened.
Would you?
I would be dead. I don't sleep for more than an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half.
So you never really attained deep sleep, then, is what you're saying?
No, I got home this morning, at about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
but you'd been here all night as well.
I'd been here since 11 o'clock the night before, so that's quite a long time.
I don't know how you do that.
That's 10 hours, right? So then I made some breakfast and I...
what did you make for breakfast?
I had a sausage butty.
Oh, really? You know, that's what I wanted. All that talk of sausages.
Right.
That's what I wanted, but I couldn't get one on the way down.
Oh, well, I have reserves of sausages
Was
in
it
my
an
house.
Irish recipe one?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, actually, yeah. And then I kind of just checked out the rest of the papers that I hadn't really looked at and, switched on the news and checked out
hang on,
all
you
that.
did a paper review?
Yeah, I know I had, but only on the back pages. I was checking out the front pages.
I see, right.
I like to keep in touch with world affairs.
Of course.
So
I see Mr. Brazil managed to poke fun at you about the being locked in a tunnel.
No, he wasn't poking fun at me, actually. No.
He did ask about it, though.
Yeah, and Brian got a bit upset because, of course, I spoke up for my old pal Charles Sale.
I did wonder when that was all going to go off.
Exactly. And
because he's had a sort of long-running feud with
I forgot that they're at war with each other, yeah. And anyway, so, we digress. What I'm saying is so about 10 o'clock, I went and lay down.
Yeah.
And at 25 past 11, I woke up again.
But did you lie down on top of the bed? I mean,
No, I went to bed.
I went to bed. Okay.
I went to bed.
Right.
I closed the curtains even.
Yeah.
I thought, I suppose I better get some sleep. I didn't really feel like I wanted to sleep, but I thought I bet I had.
Right. Because that's the trouble. If you keep going for too long,
yes,
you go past the point where you actually feel tired.
Maybe.
You might feel a bit spaced out, but you actually don't feel like sleeping.
Anyway, 25 past 11, I woke up.
I've interrupted your soliloquy.
No. 25 past 11, I woke up.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, that's all right, because I'll probably go back to sleep again. 10 minutes later, I was still awake, so I got up.
Right. And slept for an hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And continued with my day.
Right.
And I haven't had any sleep since then.
Well, you see, that's not enough sleep.
Well, I don't feel that tired, to be honest.
Yeah, but you can't function on an hour and 25 minutes sleep in a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, but if I went and lay down again... I mean, by the way, I'm not into sort of, going to bed during the day. I think that's unnatural.
Yeah, but if you work at night, you have to.
Well, I suppose so. But, I mean, I try to do it in the early hours when I first get home, because I leave here a couple of hours before you do. And maybe at night, before I come out, I might lie down on the couch or something like that, okay. But
see, as I suspected, you don't have enough sleep.
Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. But all I know is that I don't go to sleep very much.
Yeah.
So,
I got back from the school thing about 11, quarter to 11 or so. I went to sleep at about 11 o'clock.
Right.
And I woke up a couple of times. I basically slept till about 5.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, down in
Sussex,
Kent?
yeah.
In Sussex,
Not in
right?
Kent, no.
No, in Sussex, yeah. You wouldn't be sleeping in Kent, because if you were, you'd be in a field.
Yeah, I would be.
Yes,
yeah.
I see.
It's never a good
well,
idea. Or
funny
a
you
hotel.
should say this, and without getting too technical now, I was reading my medical journals the other day, because I like to keep up with things.
Yeah, of course.
And apparently, women approaching the menopause or going through the menopause hardly sleep at all for maybe years.
Well, they have sort of night sweats and things.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And I feel very sorry for women if they're in that sort of situation. It must make them very tired and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it does.
You know, after they've got through the years of being...
you must be very tired. There's no way that you can feel
I don't feel tired, to be honest. If
you've only slept for an hour and a half, that's just not enough.
Yeah, well...
It's not good for you either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you're right. Anyway...
But what is the... you haven't explained the benefits as they've explained them from
Well, what they
Swansea's
do is, if they've had a hard training session, right, what they say is that they might want a training session in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right, because they might have double training sessions this pre-season.
Yeah.
Now, in the old days, they would have been allowed to, say, drive home and go and see their family for a bit of lunch and all that kind of stuff, and then come back. Right. That's right. Now, they say, don't bother with all that. You get in the snooze box for an hour and a half and sleep.
Right.
But, I mean, how you can tell, a finely honed athlete, right, you will now go to sleep for an hour and a half. I've no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't do that.
That reminds me of when they built BBC Scotland up in Glasgow. And they built this massive, great big place. I don't know if you've seen it.
Is that where Radio Scotland was?
Yeah,
I went and did a couple of programmes
there.
there.
Well, do you know where there's a I think a Crown Plaza Hotel, the SECC, which is the sort of armadillo building.
Yes, I know all that.
And conferences on. It's right opposite that. It's a big. It's called the Cube. It's like a big sort of square block.
Yeah.
Right by the Science Centre, which has got that little tower that goes up that never works.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And anyway, they put in these thing called think pods.
Yes.
Because you know what the BBC's like.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, have a think pod.
Mr. Brazil said to you yesterday on the show.
Yes.
And basically they said anybody who feels the need to go and sort of sit in one of these pods, doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter if you're in the middle of some kind of broadcast, whatever you're doing, you go and sit in a think pod for 20 minutes.
What are you supposed to think about?
It's supposed to make you sort of calmer.
Well, like meditation?
A bit of meditation.
Yeah.
Maybe you could come up with a couple of creative ideas.
Yeah.
A couple of things that maybe you think your boss would like to know about.
Right.
So it's a kind of slightly strange situation.
Weird, that.
See, there are people who come in from
that.
time to time because of the different hours that people work here. And people will go for a sleep somewhere in the building.
Sure.
And I'm not sure I could ever do that because that would feel slightly kind of strange to me.
I think we tried one of those rooms here once, didn't we?
No. I'll tell you what I did once.
I don't think downstairs there was like a calm room, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
No, I think we had a calm room.
There was a place where you could go and sort of have a lie down, wasn't there? Was it called the calm room?
I think it was called the calm room,
Really?
Yeah, I think it was.
Well, I've never tried it.
I think we scrapped it when it didn't work.
I know once, years ago, when I first started coming down to work for Talk Sport, I think the first show or so that I did, or a couple of first shows that I did, they invited me to do... I think an overnight show. Right. And then they said to me just before the overnight show was about to start, could you do the 10 o'clock at night show, tonight after this one? And I said, well, yeah, probably. But I said, I haven't actually got a hotel because I was going to go back to Scotland where I was staying at the time. And, of course, I couldn't find a hotel from 6 o'clock in the morning until would let me check in until kind of about midday.
Right.
So and I found one in Victoria that would let me check in at midday rather than 3 a.m.
Right.
But I went to Victoria and I had to just sort of wander about for 7 hours.
Like a homeless person.
Yeah,
well...
Because there was nowhere to go.
Well,
because that's one of the biggest problems. You cannot find what they should have is like the Japanese have here, or in Japan rather, where you can check into a hotel
at any time
of day or night.
Yeah,
for 2
that
hours
is amazing.
or for
in
4
London,
hours.
you can't do that.
No, I know.
So people who are getting off the plane that's coming at 6 or 7 a.m. in Heathrow cannot go straight to the hotel and find a room. I can't believe that. They must be able to.
No, they can't.
They must be able to.
Because what happens is that rooms are available usually from 3 p.m.
Yes.
Right? Because they've got people in them from the night before.
Yeah, sure.
They check out between 10 and 11. So you cannot go to a hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning and check in.
Yeah, but it's
madness.
Absolutely amazing that they don't make a provision for to have some room spare for people, because Heathrow's one of the biggest airports in the world.
Yeah.
People are pouring
the only airport,
off the planes there from the east and the west.
I don't know whether Heathrow's actually got one. I'm sure people can tell us. But the one place I've seen where they've got a sort of airport that you can rent by the hour is Amsterdam. At Schiphol. If you go to Schiphol and you've got a long time between flights, which quite a few people have, you can check into a hotel room, have a shower, have a couple of hours of sleep, sleep, which I think is brilliant.
Most of those rooms are used by prostitutes, aren't
That's
they?
not true.
No, it is true.
It's in an airport.
It is true.
No, it's in an airport.
No, that's fine. I mean, you got like 50 hookers at Schiphol Airport who think, no.
When was the last time you saw a hooker at Schiphol Airport?
Well, I've been at Schiphol Airport for quite a long time, but I do know for a fact, because it's like, there is an element of, free love man in Holland and all that kind of stuff.
No, I think you'd be reading too many of those, what do you call it, Harold Robbins books.
No, I'm not.
By the way, somebody tweeted me the other day and said you got the carpetbaggers storyline completely wrong.
What do you mean?
It had nothing to do with a guy being pegged out in the desert, having ants poured on his private parts and all the rest of it, having his eyes scalded by the sun.
Right.
He said that was nothing to do with Harold Robbins.
Oh, it was. It was a Harold Robbins book.
Are you sure? It was carpetbaggers.
Well, it could have been. I'll tell you who it was. I'm not sure the name of the book. It was a guy called Nevada Smith.
Oh, Nevada Smith.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he was in the carpetbaggers. If you look him up, if you look Nevada Smith up on your machine,
okay, I will.
I'm sure he was a character in the carpetbaggers. I don't mind taking criticism when it's legitimate, but I will not be attacked and criticised purely for the sake that a lot of people regard moi, that is, the Portmeister, as a punch bag. I will not be punch bag.
Funnily enough, I'm going to talk to you about punch bags coming up in the next hour. Anthony says this, it's all to do with you eating at the wrong time and the wrong foods. Parry, you plank, full of sugar.
I'm not sure about
that. Brocky says, did Porky make the sausage sandwich himself or did he get his maid to make it?
No, I made it myself.
And Becky says this, I'm seriously worried medically about Porky's lack of sleep, fatigue, stress, irritability and serotonin issues all follow.
No.
Hashtag save Porky.
Serotonin, what's that?
Serotonin is the thing that, it's the sort of the substance, if you like, that you need to keep yourself in a good state of mind.
Oh.
It's people. Sometimes people take extra serotonin.
Sort of well-being.
If you've got a lack of serotonin, you can be very, very grumpy.
They don't put them in the happy pills, do they?
Well, they can be in the happy pills.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Listen, talking about airport terminals, by the way, something I was going to mention to you because of your hound.
My hound?
Yeah, JFK have just opened a new first-class terminal.
Yeah.
But it is for pets only.
Is it?
Yeah, honestly, it's the biggest in the world. It can house like 20 horses, 50 dogs, cats and all that. Horses. The horses have got a barn, 70 stalls in the barn, cushioned floors to protect their hooves on a walking track.
Hooves?
Hooves, yeah, the hooves of the horses. The terminal open next year.
If that's for racehorses, I would understand it.
Port Authority of New York expects 70,000 furry, scaly or feathered travellers will eventually pass through the privately run facility.
Right.
It is the most advanced.
You've seen the time, by the way.
Well, I'm telling you some great information here, so you shouldn't care less about the time.
I do care less about it. It's a radio station you're working for.
And I've seen this in a feature in the New York Business Magazine. I mean, that's brilliant,
all right,
isn't it?
We'll talk some more about it coming up. I found Nevada Smith, by the way. It looks like you may not be right. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and of course there is Porkyvision coming up a little bit later on in the show, and we'll hear from Mr. Parry on all the great TV shows he's been watching and all some great theories as well. Let me tell you about Nevada Smith.
Right.
According to what I've got here, he was the star of, that was a 1966 American Western film starring Steve McQueen. It was the prequel, apparently, to the Carpetbaggers.
Well, there you go.
So Nevada Smith was in the Carpetbaggers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know about this.
So I got it right.
Well, I don't know, because I haven't checked the actual, the plot lines.
I got it right,
to
man.
find out whether or not it's true to say that
I got it
he
right.
was, in fact, somebody pegged out in the desert.
Yeah, they were. I tell you, I read the book when I was
okay.
an impressionable teenager.
Ah.
Now, by the way, we were talking about academies and all that. I've been reminded several times by friends of mine north of the border. By the way, we might be going to the north of the border sometime towards the end of this year.
The end of the year,
yeah, good. Anyway, I've been reminded that the greatest academy result of all time was, of course, the Celtic team of 1967, who became champions of Europe with a team of players, all of whom were born within 30 miles of Celtic Park.
And apparently 14 out of 15 of them born within 10 miles of Celtic Park.
Exactly.
Well, that's the kind of thing that used to be the case in those days, right?
Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
People would go out and play for West Ham.
How could you do that? How could you, within 10-mile radius of a football ground, go and find enough players to make a team that was the best in Europe, literally? I mean, what an incredible...
It was an incredible thing that they did. And also it makes you think now what ridiculous kind of lengths we've now gone to have something called the Champions League, which is supposed to be, the following on from the European Cup. With Celtic having played a couple of games already, they're now into the next round of qualifying. Third round of qualifying, I think it is, and they've got to go and play some team in Azerbaijan. I mean, it doesn't feel like Champions League to me.
No, but it's only the qualifying rounds, the early qualifying qualifying rounds, and all the teams from the smaller, less powerful footballing countries get involved at that stage, gives them a bit of a thrill at the start of the season. Talking about Scottish football, by the way, obviously Celtic favourites to win everything again this season, although they didn't win everything last season, did they? They stumbled in the League Cup, didn't they? They won, or was it the FA Cup? Stumbled in the FA Cup, in the Scottish Cup, sorry. Yeah, they won League Cup, didn't win the Scottish Cup. But I saw a pretty extensive interview with the gentleman, Mr. King, who's now...
Dave King,
Dave King, who's the boss of Rangers.
Yeah.
He's got incredible wealth, this man. The report I saw by Jim White on Sky said he's recently paid a £40 million tax bill in South Africa where he lives and all this kind of stuff, and he's put,
Well, he's going to need a few bob if he's going to try and resurrect Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, pouring money down the drain.
What I mean is, what an incredible commitment, one man to spend so much of his fortune on trying to revive the fortunes of a club, even if this is legendary.
Texts and tweets have come in. Text, of course, on 81089. Gary says this: the explanation of Porky's constant gibberish is revealed an hour or so of sleep every day. Here's one from Craig, who says Porky would sleep more if he'd done more than 12 hours work a week. I'm not surprised he doesn't sleep much, being a part-timer. It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
It is a bit harsh, yeah.
He's not counting all that other work you do for various other organisations throughout the course of the week.
I've got to keep myself busy. Got to keep myself busy.
How about this from Michael, right? He's texted this. He said, 1 minute Porky's slagging Mr. Graham off for driving his car with no interior mirror.
Yeah.
And the next he's driving around after only an hour and a half sleep in 24 hours. There should be traffic updates warning everyone where he is.
No, that's not the case at all. You see, you've given the impression once again that I'm some sort of a zombie.
No, at all.
Moving around on the surface of the earth. Do I look like I need sleep?
No.
Exactly.
No.
Thank you. I do not look like I need sleep.
But you look the same every time I see you.
Do you know what I think I'm like?
No, but hang on. Maybe it's because you look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because you always need sleep, and that's just your default position.
I tell you what I think I'm like. I think I'm like the difference between a coal-fired power station and nuclear power.
Oh, really?
A coal-fired power station has to sort of take in energy, literally, every minute of its life. Because unless you're shoveling coal in, it's not actually burning any fuel and creating power. You see what I mean?
Well, how do you think a nuclear station works then?
A nuclear station works on a piece of nuclear particle the size of an OXO cube. Right, the size of an OXO cube. And that's what I am. I only need...
The size of an OXO cube?
No, I'm not the size of an OXO cube. I only need the energy required by a very small part of my physiology to get through a day.
But nuclear energy is still energy that needs to be created. It's not as if it's not, it's not magically
I know.
there,
but what I'm saying is it's not a huge, massive sort of, I mean, you know why stokers are called stokers in the Royal Navy, don't you?
Because they stoke the fire.
No, they used to shovel the coal into the furnaces, which then burnt, which then heated the water, which then produced steam to make the steam engines work to power the boat.
So they were stoking the fire?
Well, they weren't stoking it. They were like shoveling the coal in.
Same thing.
Stoking means getting a poker and
you don't get a poker when you've got a massive industrial type fire.
Exactly. But anyway, the point of my story is...
What is the point of your story?
For instance, the USS Theodore Roosevelt... which is the biggest aircraft carrier in the US Navy.
This is the one they couldn't get into Portsmouth Harbour.
Couldn't get into Portsmouth Harbour, so it moored in the Solent quite recently and had 90 ships on the deck. I mean, which incidentally...
90 planes.
They had 90 planes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
90 ships.
90 planes on the deck of the ship, right, which is equivalent. This is one American aircraft carrier visiting this country, had the equivalent of 1/3 of the Royal Air Force's total number of planes parked on the deck of
That's shocking, isn't it?
It is shocking,
absolutely
isn't it?
Shocking.
It's absolutely shocking. But anyway, the point of the story is...
So have they got coal-fired engines there?
No, I was about to tell you the whole story. The Theodore Roosevelt, which is literally the size of a city, I mean, it's massive. 6,000 people on board.
Right.
I mean, 6,000 people is bigger than a town like Shepton Mallet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
I can imagine that.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, of course I can.
Isn't that incredible?
It is incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And those 6,000 people get all their power, the ship gets all its power, the missiles that it fires, because it could literally take out, Brazil with the firepower on board, with the aeroplanes.
Country, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or take out anything. Could take out Czechoslovakia. Could take out probably Chad. It could probably take out, I don't know, somewhere like...
well, you could try the Czech Republic or even Slovakia.
Or you know what I'm talking about. You could take out a decent-sized country, just having 90 attack planes, plus all the missiles and everything else it's got on board. And that is all powered by a power unit inside that ship about the size of a Rubik Cube.
Really?
How about that?
And Shepton Mallet's got 10,000 people in it, I'm told.
Has it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's nearly as many as the ship, which has 6,000 people on board.
Yeah.
It has 3,400 sailors and 2,600 aircrew.
Did you get all this information from your naval intelligence guys?
Well, I did, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Because you might want to give away all these secrets.
No, well, they're not secrets.
By the way,
It's
have you seen
public
that thing that's behind you that's been
it?
brought into the studio? It's got a punching machine. I'm not quite sure. I think it's got something to do with some new movie that's coming out.
Yeah, there's a new movie coming out, which...
starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. which is interesting because it's said to be the best film about boxing since Raging Bull, which was about Jake LaMotta, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So that's a connection between this film.
Both called Jake.
Yeah, both called Jake. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, did you see Raging Bull?
Yes, I've seen it.
Wasn't it a brilliant film?
It is a brilliant film. It's in black and white as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you remember you used to say to me, what is the point of watching things in black and white?
Yes.
When you see a film like that in black and white, you see why.
Oh, the grittiness of New York life and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
all the weight that he had to put on to play the part.
Who, Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
Wasn't it the best bit when he suddenly got this fixation that his brother had been having sex with his own wife?
Yeah.
And
having an affair.
That involves sex.
Well, yeah, I know that, but you don't have to be quite so graphic.
Well, I'm not. I'm just being
family
specific.
show we're talking about
I'm being specific. So he then started to beat him up, didn't he? And
her.
And the brother, of course, was
Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci, that's right. Yeah, he was a brilliant actor as well, wasn't he? Yeah, it was a brilliant film. I agree.
Yeah. Well, what about this thing behind you, though?
Well,
it's like one of those fairground punch balls.
I was about to say it's one of those fairground punch balls. In fact, I wouldn't say fairground. I would say amusement arcade.
Yeah.
Amusement arcade.
Yeah.
And the ball drops down, and then you come up and you whack it, don't you?
Do you want to have a go at it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. See what score we get.
Yeah.
I'm told that the record...
You're much more violent than I am physically, so you'll probably win.
No, but I mean, we're going to do this publicly, and we're also going to take a picture of the respective scores so that you can't cheat.
Right.
Because that's what you do. You spend your whole life trying to put me down.
Not at all. You put yourself down.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to get inspiration out of this by imagining that ball I'm going to punch is your fat face.
Really?
Because I've been wanting to give
so
you...
aggressive.
I've give you a good thump in the gob for a long time, okay?
See, they've just put it on now.
Right, we've switched it on.
So now you can hear the music in the background. So,
Listen,
I mean, the top score apparently is 995.
It can't be.
Which is from one of the younger chaps here employed at TalkSport. So what do you reckon you're going to score?
Are we doing this now or in the break?
No, we'll do it in the break.
Right, OK. What am I going to score?
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, if it was a young fellow who hasn't got boxing technique and all that, I would imagine I'll bust 1,000.
Really?
Yeah.
OK, all right. Well, we'll see how it goes. We're looking to the light for a moment. We'll have a little boxing competition coming up.
Yep.
We are the Two Mics. Porky's now had 4 goes at trying to beat me at this particular boxing game, and sadly he hasn't managed it yet. His first one was, 420, second one 430, he's managed to get it up to 545. But sadly, as we reveal on Two Mics TV, I think I managed to get, with one punch, 640 something or other. So bad luck, Porky, you've lost again. Unbelievable how you think that these things are all gerrymandered against you.
Yeah, well...
I thought you used to be a boxing champion at Butlins.
I was.
Well, you didn't have much technique. You really fell over when you were punching.
No. I was building up to it. I didn't realise you only had one punch, and in the end, I gave him my haymaker.
You had about 4 goes, though, didn't you?
No, 3.
3 goes.
And each one was better than the last.
Right. Well, we'll have to find out precisely what the scores were, and we'll get the executive producer to give them out to us. But quite interesting. I mean, we're both still quite well below the 995 winning mark. I was like 2/3 of the way there, and you were less than half, I'm afraid.
No, that's not true. That's not true. By the way, yes, well, we'll talk about that later. A lot of people getting upset about this this thing that I said about Schiphol Airport.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how people can have an affection for an airport. This guy called says, Mr. Parry, arrogant Porky, there are more prozzies, which is not a very nice word for the ladies of the night, at John Lennon Airport in Liverpool than there are in Schiphol. Well, I know that to be absolutely not the truth. That's a horrible and disgraceful slur against one of Britain's great regional airports, named after, of course, our greatest ever musician.
Yeah, who must not be named.
Who must not be named, yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, the point is that, I mean, you just more or less maligned the entire sort of Dutch nation by saying that Schiphol Airport was full of hookers.
Well, don't you think it is? Don't you think an national airport that is?
I used to go to Schiphol Airport all the time because I used to fly from Glasgow to America. Right. Quite often I'd go via Schiphol.
Right,
and I have to say to you, quite honestly, I never saw any hookers at all. All I ever saw was an awful lot of cheese, some clogs, and an awful lot of very nice shops.
Yeah, but you don't see hookers, do you? You know, I spent a lot of time in Moscow. You don't actually see hookers.
Well, of course you do.
You just see a lot of beautiful women all over the place.
They're not inside an airport. I mean, this is behind security at an airport.
They don't walk around with signs on their head saying, I'm for hire or anything like that. You know what I mean? You've got to have a bit of common sense about this, Mike, a bit of streetwiseness, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I know you've got a lot of that, but, I mean, I'm amazed you got out of there alive, actually, considering how much money you would have had on you and how much, of a target you would have been. In Moscow.
Oh, in Moscow, yeah, well, I was a bit surprised as well,
you didn't end up getting sort of drugged somewhere and left to, in a hotel room, all your stuff stolen.
I have to admit, so am I. I had far too much to drink on each occasion when I went there because people ply you with vodka. Russians drink vodka like we drink wine, believe it or not, and you have to be very, very careful.
I know.
Now then...
what about this Arsene Wenger stuff that's in the papers? Because I'm trying to get you to talk about it.
Yeah, no.
But you seem to be wanting to avoid it for some reason. First of all, he says that he wants to thank Roman Abramovich, which seems a bit of a thing to do. He's trying to wind up Jose Mourinho, which he's never very good at doing, is he? Because he never actually has ever won a game against a team that's been managed by Jose Mourinho.
That's amazing.
If you remember we talked about this yesterday, that last season when they had that touchline spat where he was kind of pushing him away.
Well, not only that, but we had the remarkable statement by Jose Mourinho that Arsene Wenger's a specialist in failure.
Yeah.
Because Arsene Wenger had said to a journalist, well, the reason managers speak as they do is they fear failure. That's why they make all sorts of daft predictions.
Right.
And Jose Mourinho took that as a real affront and said, well, he's a specialist in failure. Bit harsh, really, but I suppose that the facts as he looked at them backed that up.
But he's also said that he thinks Manchester United, on the back of the Times, Manchester United are trying to buy the Premier League, which under the current circumstances, where so many teams are trying to do that it seems a bit of a he's basically done something which is very un-Arsene Wenger-like, and he's come out and just had a go at everybody. Which doesn't seem to me to be the kind of thing he normally would do.
He said United trying to buy glory, basically. Yeah. That's not even a story, is it?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so.
Because doesn't every Premiership club
of course.
try and do that?
Well, also, he's bought Alexis Sanchez, he bought Mesut Ozil. I mean, he's now bought Peter Cech. What's he trying to do?
Yeah, well, absolutely. No, it's all interesting stuff, but the most interesting thing is he says, I never want to quit. Wenger's still fired by trophy dreams. Arsene Wenger confesses he's terrified by the thought of retirement. The Arsenal boss, 65, Britain's longest-serving manager, insists he's more committed than ever, and he said, the idea of retirement crosses my mind, but not for longer than 5 seconds. Then I panic. Well, yeah, but it's not going to be your decision in the end, Arsene, because I'm afraid you have, many would say, overstayed your welcome, saved, of course, by back-to-back FA Cup victories over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, but nobody's ever going to fire him. It is actually his decision, because we've said this many times, there's no way that Arsene Wenger is ever going to be fired by Arsenal.
Somebody will have
There's nobody at Arsenal that can do it.
Somebody will have to eventually. Now, there's a list here, the longest-serving, on the back of that, somebody's produced a list of the longest-serving Premier League and Football League post-war bosses, okay?
Okay.
And Alex Ferguson, not surprisingly, comes out at the top, 26 years. Followed by Dario Gradi at Crewe. He had 26 years as well. I remember Dario. I used to go and see him when I was working on the Chester Chronicle, if Chester were playing Crewe, because they always used to be in the same...
That was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, it was a long time ago. They used to be in the same lowest division. Matt Busby, believe it or not, had 23 years. Bill Anderson of Lincoln. Never heard of that man.
Right.
Never heard of him. He was there from 46 to 65. Bill Anderson, Lincoln, probably the least fashionable football town in this country.
You think?
Yeah, it's got a beautiful cathedral, but a really...
Lincoln City?
Really shoddy... they used to play Chester a lot as well, because they were in the bottom league all the time.
Why are you singling out Lincoln as being the most awful place
I didn't realise they had a manager for 20 years. Then Arsene Wenger, 18 years, because Bill Anderson of Lincoln was there for 19... What a waste of time spending 19 years managing Lincoln.
You're very derisory about this, but surely when you talk about football being part of the kind of the fabric of a community, then surely that must be a good thing.
Well, I don't know, really. I mean, you're not exactly the world's most ambitious manager, are you? You spent 19 years managing Lincoln City, for goodness sake. Probably the third or fourth worst professional club in this country since the Second World War. Then you've got... Arsene Wenger is 18 years.
Yeah.
Then, actually, Brian Clough, 18 years at Forest.
Right.
It's amazing, considering that Brian Clough also had First Division Championship glory at Derby.
Yeah.
It ended sadly for Brian Clough, didn't it? Unfortunately, the drink got him, which is not being unfair. I'm afraid that's a statement of fact. I'm afraid it did, poor lad. And then another waste of time appointment, Bert Tan. You think Bert Tan managed for 18 years? I don't know who
Bert Tan is, no.
Bert Tan, for 18 years, managed Bristol Rovers.
OK, one of your favourite teams.
Exactly, that should be merged with Bristol City now. But that was from January 1950 to April 1968.
So is Arsene Wenger the only kind of relatively modern manager in here, then?
Well, apart from Sir Alex Ferguson. He's the only one still serving. Yeah. Absolutely. And then 16 years, Bill Nicholson at Tottenham. October 58 to August 74. He stayed too long, didn't he, Bill Nicholson? Because he had fantastic glory in the early 60s. They doubled, then they won the Cup, and then they won the Cup Winners' Cup in 3 successive years. Right. And then they won the Cup again in 67. I remember that because, I tell you why, Terry Venables was playing for Spurs against Chelsea, who won, and Spurs won 2-1, having been transferred from Chelsea. Right. See, I remember all these things. And
there's only points you're reading out the rest of this list. Who else is on there?
No, that is the list. That is the list. But
so Arsene Wenger's the only current manager who's been there any length of time at all.
Exactly.
And so who's the second longest serving Premier League manager now then?
I think you'll find it's somebody.
Because it was Alan Pardew for a while.
It was Alan Pardew at Newcastle,
but now he's at Crystal Palace.
It's at Crystal Palace, so it must be. Who's been there?
I think it's only someone who's been about 3 years now, or something like that.
3 or 4 years, maybe. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Who could it be?
Not Roberto Martinez.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Brendan Rodgers has been there 3 years.
Brendan Rodgers, Tony Pulis has gone, from Stoke. He was a long-serving manager. The Southampton manager was a long-serving, but he's gone. Yeah. I'm just trying to
I think it might be Brendan Rodgers,
Could be Brendan Rodgers. Yeah. 4th year? Yeah, in his 4th year.
Could be. Now, we have filmed that boxing contest that we just had. We're putting it up on Two Mics TVs. We'll tweet it out soon. Okay. Because quite a few people have shown some interest. Here's one from Irish One, who says, Porky fixed the boxing machine. Fraser says, I'd pay good money to see Porky hitting this machine. Yeah. Baby Mo says, punch test. I'm surprised Porky didn't knock himself out. And Dom says, Porky would have done better if he'd had another hour's kip.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And then Bill says, nice to see the pill crusher Parry has the strength of a 6-year-old girl. What? # bladderation punch.
You mad? I just had to get my technique back, that was all. And I needed a few more attempts. If I did it again at the end of the show, I'd get up to 900, I'm certain.
You? Well, I mean, we can keep trying it if you like.
Yeah, well, I think we should.
Well, we shall see. And here's one from Andy who says, would love to see pictures of the boxing challenge. Did Porky have to stand on a chair to reach it?
No, I didn't have to stand on a chair to reach it. Why is this Craig O'Connor fella saying Porky would sleep more if he did more than 12 hours work a week?
No, I read you that one out before. Because you do 12 hours work a week here, don't you?
Yeah, with you.
4 times 3.
Yeah,
12.
But I've done an awful lot more than that.
Well, I know. Well, I said they missed out on all this extra work that you do for other broadcasting organisations.
OK. I'll forgive you for that.
There's a very frightening looking picture of you as well from Bill that says this is what you look like reviewing Porkyvision.
I've seen that. It's a skeletal figure.
A skeletal figure, which is definitely not what you are. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about the moon landings because it's the 46th anniversary this week of the moon landings, right? And Clayton Anderson is a retired NASA astronaut who's going to be telling us what he makes of it all. And also about what Brian Cox said earlier today, which was that anyone who doesn't believe the moon landings happen is a bit of a plank, to be honest.
Complete idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Complete idiot.
This is Talk Sport.
On DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
When are we going to be able to literally build a bridge between Earth and the moon?
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Porkyvision coming up a little while later on. And, of course, there will be a podcast coming out on iTunes and on Android as well. Follow us at the Two Mics, and you can find out precisely when that will be. Should be in around about 7 hours from now. Right now, though, we're going to talk about space, and we'll talk about the moon specifically. Clayton Anderson is a former astronaut. He was on the ISS Expedition 15 crew. That's the International Space Station. Because we're now at that point where it's the 46th anniversary of the moon landings, which you may remember, Mr. Parry. I certainly do. And we're going to find out from Clayton why it is that that space has always had this kind of fascination for us, but it's not at the moment very much at the forefront of anyone's kind of exploratory sort of situation. Clayton, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed.
Good evening. Thanks for coming on.
For joining us. Now, one of the reasons we got you on today, Clayton, is because there's a professor here by the name of Brian Cox, who is a very sort of well-regarded guy. He was in a sort of a pop band at one point, but he's now a sort of TV scientist, if you like. And he was saying to all of those people out there who have doubts about the moon landings ever happening, that if you think the moon landing was fake, you need a new brain. I've never doubted them for 1 second. Why do you think so many people do?
That's a great question. I have no idea. I guess it's because they sit around in their boxer shorts and scratch their bellies and live in the basement of their grandmother. But, it's hard for me to imagine that anyone could not understand that this was all real.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much graphic evidence. Even though technology was not nearly as advanced in those days as it is now, where do they think the pictures of the splashdown came from? Do they think that was dropped out of a US Air Force aeroplane, just happened to be flying over at the time?
It's silly to me that all of that. I mean, even back then with the camera equipment and the ability we had then.
Yeah.
It's still very real, but I know there are people all over that look at the photos and they come up with these crazy theories as to, there's a cross on a hash mark on the photo and that's not real and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I just simply don't understand. And now that I've lived it, then I have my own perfect evidence that says it's all real. So,
well, of course it is. I mean, they've only got to examine it. All these ridiculous conspiracy theories, like, for instance, well, how come there was a camera on the moon when Neil Armstrong came down the ladder, when it's well explained that, there was an extending arm on the capsule itself which spun out to provide the camera shot, because that was all pre-planned. I mean, why don't they just look at the facts? And if they did, then we should dismiss them. Shouldn't give them any more, airtime, paper time, space time, or anything. They're just nutters.
I think that the social media guys ought to be able to filter those dudes and put them all in their own little Twitter colony, and they can tweet each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. Clayton, while you're on, just as a sort of trajectory, for want of a better word, to the whole thing. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on with Neil Armstrong's original spacesuit? Because I was talking to a friend of mine in America the other day via email, who tells me that there's a big worry that that the spacesuit itself, which is one of the greatest historical artefacts of your nation, is in danger of literally falling to pieces.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. So it was on display at a national museum for many years, 10 years, I believe. But as people, examined it and they take it off display to look at it, check its condition, and things deteriorate, right? They deteriorate because of fluorescent light. They deteriorate because of changes in temperature between air conditioning and non-air conditioning. Sometimes crazy people, if the display is such, they reach out and touch it with their greasy hot dog mustard ketchup fingers, and so now they've discovered that the biggest problem is the bladder, and the bladder is a piece of the suit you never see because it's the inside.
Right.
And that bladder, that rubber bladder, is beginning to dry, and it's beginning to crack. And so the first step is they're trying to raise enough money to be able to do a proper renovation for the suit and refix everything that's fallen apart or that's getting stained or that's discoloring. But in order to do that, they're first going to create a three-dimensional digital model of it. So there's a crowdsourced funding campaign going on to raise money. But you're right, it is one of the world's most unique and treasured artifacts.
Yeah, but Clayton, the obvious question is, America's got the biggest economy in the world. We were just talking about the USS Theodore Roosevelt recently visiting British waters. Surely the US government will step in and provide a few $1 million to renovate this, won't they? I mean, as you quite rightly say, it's such an historical artefact. If anything happened to it, the President of the United States of America should resign.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
No, it's true.
I like how you think, but that's a tough one. There are so many competing priorities in America for all the money that the taxpayers put in. Some of those competing priorities are good priorities, others not so good. The fight for space has been hard for America, but it's also been hard for all the European Union countries that are helping with the space station. It's been hard for Russia. It's been hard for Japan and Canada. So people need to understand that what space brings to them are advancements for humans on Earth.
Yeah.
From miniature batteries to cell phones to invisible braces for people's teeth to satellite imagery that can tell farmers and winemakers that their crops are diseased prior to ripping their whole field out. They can only rip out a couple of yards of their field because they can see where it's diseased. We don't do a great job of advertising what space investment has done for people on Earth, and I think that would help us more quickly get these kind of monies.
Okay. And looking at your time, you spent 152 days on board the International Space Station at a time when science was far more advanced than it was when Buzz Aldrin and Armstrong went up there. I mean, is it staggering to you that they managed to do what they did? Considering, I mean, what we now hear, for example, is that the NASA computer that was powering the whole kind of mission wasn't even as powerful now as an iPhone is.
Yeah, and I mean those guys. To me, yes, I was an astronaut. Did I risk my life? Yeah, I suppose I did, but I didn't risk nearly as much as those gentlemen did to climb on those Saturn V rockets and launch in a capsule and go toward the moon and then land on the moon and come back. You know, those guys had true guts and had true testicles, and I mean, I stand on their shoulders. I'm proud of what I did, but I am really proud of what they did.
Yeah. Tell us just briefly, Clayton, why then did the moon missions end? You know, you'd conquered the moon, you'd got there, you'd planted the American flag. Surely there was so much more then that could have been taken from the moon in terms, you've just said that, you know, the way it helps mankind on Earth. Why did we give it all up?
Well, the biggest thing was, again, it came down to money and the Vietnam War, and we were sinking so much money into that war that we didn't. The government decided we didn't have that kind of money to continue to spend on space. And in actuality, we had 3 more Saturn V's all ready to go to the moon, and 3 more missions had been planned. Crews had been named, and we canceled the whole thing. And that's been, unfortunately, a key aspect of American space for a long time. We've done some really cool things that we've canceled. Yeah. For example, this guy Bigelow in Las Vegas, Nevada, who's putting the inflatable modules in space, that technology was developed in Houston at the Johnson Space Center, and we canceled it.
That's amazing. So, I mean, in hindsight, you'd probably been better off giving up the Vietnam War rather than the missions to space.
Yeah, well, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
It is, of course.
Tell us about your book, Clayton, The Ordinary Spaceman.
Yes.
Well, The Ordinary Spaceman covers a lot of fun stories of my career, 15-year career as an astronaut. It starts with, for example, my first ride in a T-38 twin-engine jet. It has discussions of spacewalks, of my first launch, of my time as a family escort for the Columbia crew. I didn't write the book to give people lessons and set examples, but I think if they read the book and enjoy the stories, they'll be able to pull their own lessons from those stories. So I expect when people read the book, they'll laugh a little, they might cry a little, and they'll definitely go WTF a lot, I think.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Okay.
Well, Clayton, listen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Enjoy the various celebrations that will be going on around the 46th anniversary of the moon landing.
He's the second most famous Clayton in American history.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why? Who's the first?
Clayton Farlow.
Clayton who?
Clayton Farlow.
Clayton Farlow?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Clayton Farlow was the guy who married Miss Ellie in
ridiculous.
In Dallas after Jock Ewing died. He was. He had
so the most famous Clayton doesn't actually exist, is that what you're telling me?
Well, he does. He had the Lone Star Ranch, and he sold that up, moved into South Fork, and the minute he moved in, JR said he was moving out.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, Clayton was a very, very important figure.
I've got a story about Texas coming up for you, actually.
Excellent.
So I'll tell you some interesting details about that.
Good.
Coming up next on Talk Sport. By the way, we have posted now on the two mics the video footage of myself and Mr. Parry's boxing competition, which I'm sorry to say was won once again by me with a score of 641. Porky tried 3 times. He got 477, he got 424, and finally 545 when he summoned up every single ounce of energy that he had inside.
I was working up towards the big one, and then you cancelled
it.
As usual, you cancelled it.
You had 3 goes. I had 1.
No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. I was developing my technique.
It's on video.
I was developing my technique.
Have you seen the time?
I don't care about the time when it comes to you rubbishing my reputation.
I saw this today and I thought, Mr. Parry, we're very, very interested in this.
Yes.
And here's the headline. For sale, Texas ranch bigger than Los Angeles and New York City.
Wow.
And it's not just bigger than each of those places.
Wow.
It's bigger than both of them put together.
That's incredible.
Can you imagine? Now, the W.T. Wagoner estate, which spans 510,527 acres and 6 counties in northern Texas, is the largest ranch in the United States inside one fence. Can you imagine the size of that?
Well, hang on. How many miles is it down and across?
Well, it would be in square miles, I guess, if you were going to mention it.
Yeah.
But I've got it in acres here, so I'd have to translate it for you.
I
mean, can you not imagine what 500,000 acres is like?
Well, I suppose so.
I mean, if you could, that would be helpful. Now, here's what it has. The property boasts more than 1,200 oil wells, 6,800 head of cattle, 500 quarter horses, and 30,000 acres of cultivated land. Yeah. I mean, this sounds like the kind of place you should retire to.
No, it sounds like Southport.
You can imagine you could be like the J.R. Ewing of this place.
Yeah, it's brilliant, because in one episode of South Fork, I think where Miss Ellie has just met Clayton Farlow, I told you about, she says, we're going to have a look at the some of the land, the ranch. And then they head towards a helicopter, and Clayton says, what's going on? And she said, it's a lot of land. Right. And they go off and they fly in a helicopter for 20 minutes, and they're still over Ewing property.
Well, you would be if you were doing this,
yes,
wouldn't you?
Of course you would, yeah.
It's a massive amount of square miles. But, I mean, 500,000 acres, basically, incredible. Dallas-based broker Bernard Ukritz says that more than 600 potential buyers have expressed interest since it went on the market earlier this year.
How much is it for sale?
465 million quid.
My God. If it goes over 6 American counties, I mean, that is almost the equivalent of 6 English counties, if you see what I mean.
Well, as I say, it's the size of Los Angeles and New York City, if you imagine those two areas
Unbelievable.
Put together.
Yeah.
Which is massive, isn't it?
And I tell you what, that would be small compared to some of the farms that Americans have invested in South America.
Yeah.
For instance, in Patagonia, which is in Argentina, I think Ted Turner, the man who invented cable network news, CNN...
Well, he didn't invent it, did he? He just started it.
Well, he founded it, that's what I mean, So he did invent it, didn't he, if he founded it?
No, you don't invent a cable TV news channel.
Yes, you do. There wasn't one before him.
Yeah, but he didn't invent it.
Well,
if you invent something, it's something that nobody else has ever done.
Well, nobody else had done it. That's what I'm just telling you.
It's a television station.
Well, it's, you're splitting hairs again, as usual.
No, you're very
loose.
loose.
You can't keep up with me.
No, you're very loose with your
What I was going to say is that his place down in South America is bigger than Wales.
Right.
So if you think that Wales is made up of...
And is it in Patagonia?
It's in Patagonia.
Which is curious, isn't it? Because it's the only part of the other part of the world where they speak Welsh. So the fact that it's bigger than Wales is interesting.
Well, some people speak Welsh in Patagonia. Other people speak Welsh in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Which has got a new broadcasting station.
I've never heard of that before.
Yes, I have. There's lots of Welsh people in Chile. Now then, what I was going to say to you was, isn't Wales made up of about 8 counties?
Well, you're the expert on Wales.
Like Diffid and Powys and...
well, Diffid Powys is one, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's 2.
Carmarthen.
Yeah.
Carmarthen's a county in Wales.
Carmarthenshire, yeah.
Carmarthenshire.
Yeah.
Denbigh. Denbighshire. Yeah. Denbighshire's definitely. And then a few others. And
you must know the ones in the north, mustn't you?
Well, that's Denbighshire.
Right.
Denbighshire and Flintshire.
Flintshire. There you go.
Denbighshire, Flintshire.
Yeah.
Powys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Diffid Powys.
Hey?
Diffid Powys.
Diffid Powys, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
I think you've got quite a few more to go.
Yeah, there probably are. But what I'm saying is, that sounds like about the same sort of size, although I didn't realise Texas was that big.
Well, Texas, the Lone Star State, is massive.
Yeah, it is massive, But is it the size of Wales?
You could drop Britain into Texas.
Oh, you could, yes, definitely,
I mean, no problem at all.
Yeah, you could, yeah. So probably right, yeah, OK.
And this guy, Mr. Utrecht, said this. He said it's one of a kind, over 500,000 acres that's been in one family for 165 years. Oklahoma was still Indian territory when it was first developed. Abraham Lincoln was in Congress. It also comes with the legend and the lore and the history of the Wagoner family and the brand. They were to Texas what the Churchills were to England.
Yeah, really?
Well,
I don't think so. Well, he didn't win a world war, did he?
Now, how about this? The estate was founded by rancher Dan Wagoner, who began buying up land in 1849.
Right.
His scions became the most flamboyant families of the Roaring Twenties.
Yes.
Only 56,000 acres of the estate have been developed for oil, leaving more than 450,000 acres untapped.
You're quite fascinated by this, aren't you?
Well, I thought it would be right for you. The family...
Well, I totally agree with you.
I mean, you've always said that J.R. Ewing is your inspiration in life.
And you've always mocked that.
The family
and now
will
you're
retain,
absolutely fascinated by the size of things in Texas.
The family will retain 12.5% of the mineral rights in any sale. It's got 120 employees, some from families who worked on the estate for generations. And the ranch has been put on the market. Sounds just like Dallas, this, right?
Yeah.
The ranch has been put on the market because of a legal feud among the relatives over how to liquidate the property.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
It's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating as well.
I don't know why you're kind of not as interested in it as I am.
No, I am very interested in it, but what I'm saying is I've been interested in the size of things in Texas and the magnificence of the cultural history of Texas for years and years and years, ever since I've seen Dallas. And I'll tell you another thing. I went down there once and I went to the... in Texas they have that special police force, the Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers, yeah.
Which are demonstrated on the telly in a ridiculous programme by that guy who's the martial arts expert with the beard,
Martial art with Chuck Norris.
Yeah, Chuck Norris. Yeah, ridiculous programme, which I'll tell you about in a minute.
No,
but what I was going to say was, I've been to the old Texas Rangers Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And
where is that then?
It's in Austin. Austin, which is
Texas,
the capital.
I never
Texas.
got to Austin. Yeah, it's supposed to be a nice town, Austin.
It is a nice town. It's a lovely town. It's got the same dome that all American capitals have. You know what I mean?
Right.
To replicate
the
Congress. That's right. Yeah, and they've got in there the guns and bits of the car in which Bonnie and Clyde were killed.
Right.
I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. The heritage and history of Texas is magnificent. I've been trying to tell you this for years, and all you ever say is,
not at all.
J.R. Ewing's not a real person.
Well, he's not.
Of course he's not, but he's based on the culture of Texas.
Well,
the
guy who started this ranch sounds like that kind of person.
He does. He sounds like Jock Ewing. Jock Ewing was the father. Jock Ewing started with nothing except one nodding donkey oil well.
Yeah, but if I were you, right, I would take more interest now in the name of the guy who actually has the real ranch and follow his way of living rather than actually following the way of living of a man who doesn't exist.
You see, you don't understand. You've never understood this. The whole of the plot of Dallas, which was one of the most successful American TV series of all times, was based on fact relating to Texas families. It was all researched very thoroughly before they put it together.
Well, it may well have been, but now you've got a real family to follow. Let me read you some tweets. A lot of people have now looked at the video, the boxing video.
Good.
Bill says this, absolutely brilliant, MG. One punch is enough for someone with Scottish DNA, not the Chester chicken DNA of Porky.
I beg your pardon.
James says Porky looks completely exhausted on the boxing video.
What?
He looks confused and dazed. He needs to sleep.
What?
And here's one from
mad?
William, who says, notice the dartboard in the video. You and Porky in a dart challenge, MG. Well, no, because he can cheat at darts, you see. That's why I don't bother doing it.
No.
Mad Max says, no wonder Porky was hopeless at the punch bag. The ball is taller than him. Just watch the clip on Two Mikes TV. And Lincoln says, MG displaying superior punching technique.
No, I don't
Would you like
think
the
so.
scores once again? Porky's high score, 545. Mine's 641.
Excuse me, what has my highest score been since we made the video?
I'm talking about the video. That was the competition.
Hang on. I was only getting my technique right.
Don't
What is
give me
my
that.
highest score since the video?
I've no idea. What have you been punching again?
727. 727. I've outpunched you.
Yeah, well, you haven't outpunched me.
I have outpunched you.
The deal was we had one punch each. You had three goes. I had one go. And you didn't manage to get beat. You didn't manage to beat me after three.
I was perfecting my technique.
Well, it's too late for that. I mean,
No,
if
it's
you're in a
not.
fight,
It's not.
there's no point in you perfecting your technique once you're flat out on the canvas.
I am up on the board
You've
there,
already
and
lost.
I'm above you.
The fight's over.
7-2-7.
No, the fight is already over.
No, it's not. It's not.
The fight is already over.
Listen, you were very selective in what you took on the video, OK?
No, the video...
You've had more than one punch. You just didn't film more than one punch.
That is a lie. I will get the executive producer in here to say that you're lying.
No, I'm not lying.
I had one punch. You had three.
Well, you should have a second punch now because...
I don't mind having a second punch, but don't start telling lies because people will think...
Don't you accuse me of being a liar.
Yeah, you are.
You've told more lies in your life than I ever have.
You just said to me that I had more than one punch. Now say that it's not true. Say that it's not true.
What did the marriage guidance counsellor...
Never mind that. How many punches did I have?
What did the marriage guidance counsellor...
How many punches did I have?
What did the marriage guidance counsellor say?
How many punches did I have?
So far, you have only executed one punch.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
You've only executed one punch.
Thank you. So that was a lie you just told.
It was not a lie.
Yes,
it was not a lie. I said you've been selective about videoing only one punch.
Yeah, because I've only had one punch.
Yes, I didn't say you'd had more than one punch.
You did.
I said you've only videoed one punch.
Right.
That's all I said.
Yes.
I said you've only videoed one of your punches.
Well, you can't video a punch I've never had.
Exactly. You then twist my words and make out that I'm trying to accuse you of having more than one punch.
I'll tell you what I'll do with the next punch. I won't bother with the machine. I'll just punch you. How about that?
Threats of violence and all that. What did the marriage guidance counsellor say?
Well, he said a great many things.
How many times? How many times?
Yeah,
how many times have you strayed?
Yeah, that's also wrong.
No, it's not.
It is.
And you said 6.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, that's your story.
Well, why did you tell me that story then?
Well, I didn't tell you that story because you can't remember any story anybody tells you.
I certainly can, and that's what you told me.
Now, tell me how many counties are in Wales again?
It's about 8.
Yeah, 22.
22, is
says
it?
here. Oh, there's a list.
Let's have a look. I'll read a few of them out.
Yeah, go on.
Right, here we go. Blaino Gwent. Oh, yeah, I suppose that is. Oh, I didn't know Bridgend was a county.
I suppose it is, Blaino Gwent.
Yeah, but I didn't know Bridgend was a county. I thought it was a town.
Yeah.
You know, Bridgend, boyo.
Yeah.
Caerphilly, I didn't know that was a county.
Caerphilly? Not Caerphilly.
Well, Caerphilly. Cardiff, I didn't know Cardiff was a county. I thought Cardiff was like the capital city.
Yeah, it is, but it's also a county.
Carmarthenshire, I knew that was a... Ceredigion.
Ceredigion. Yeah.
Conway, Denbighshire, Flintshire, Gwynedd.
Conwy.
The Isle of Anglesea's a county.
Yeah.
Wow. Who built the bridge over to the Isle of Anglesey?
It was Men at Work, wasn't it?
Eh?
It was Men at Work, wasn't it?
What are you on about?
It was Men
Who
at Work.
built the
We had
bridge?
this conversation.
Thomas Telford.
I thought it was the Menai Straits, and we had some conversation about this a while ago.
No, it's Thomas
Menai
Telford.
Work.
Thomas Telford.
No.
Right, Merthyr Tydfil.
Yeah.
I got stranded there once.
Merthyr.
They've got a mountain in Merthyr Tydfil that's about to fall into this village itself.
Is it?
And it's chained up.
Because it's been sort of
It's cracked.
undermined, you mean, by coal seams or something?
No, it's cracked in the weather, and they put a big chain around it to stop it falling into the village in Merthyr Tydfil. Yeah. Monmouthshire, Neath Port Talbot. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. That used to be a steel plant, but it's all closed down, I think, hasn't it? Has it?
What do you mean it doesn't exist anymore?
Well, haven't they closed it down?
What? Well,
the Port Talbot Steelworks?
No, I think it's still there.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, I've been down there for a long
All
time.
right. Newport, yeah. Pembrokeshire. Pembrokeshire's lovely. There's
Yeah.
beaches and things there. Powys, don't know where that is.
Powys,
Now
yeah.
then, the Rhondda.
The Rhondda, yes.
Rhondda, Cain and Taff. So that must be something to do with the valley and the river.
That's right.
There you go, sir. I've worked that one out. Swansea, Torfaen. Don't know how that is.
Torfaen.
Yeah, the Vale of Glamorgan.
Yeah.
Right.
I played golf there, actually. Played at Glamorgan Golf Club. Very nice.
Glamorgan's a beautiful place, and I tell you who still lives there, the former Cardiff football manager, David Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Who moved there and said it's the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about it. Most beautiful place
It's
he's
where
ever
a lot
lived.
of rugby players live as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Very
So
nice
he stayed
part
there.
of the world.
And then finally, the last one, I didn't know this was a county, Wrexham.
Yeah.
Now, Wrexham is a big rival to Chester. The
Yeah, it
Chester-Wrexham football derby is one
Yeah.
of the most fiercely fought in its country.
I think Robbie Savage used to play for Wrexham.
Robbie Savage did play for Wrexham, you're absolutely right, yeah. And Ian Rush played for Chester, of course.
Yes.
And believe me, I've seen some punch-ups at those games. Really, I have.
You mean on the pitch or on the terraces?
On the terraces.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chester fans taunt the Wrexham fans, call them the woolly backs, right? Which is not very nice, is
No.
it, really? You know, suggesting that they're, all
well, that's
like
the sort
sheep
of clean,
farmers from the
clean
hills.
version
It is,
of
it
the
is,
other word
it
that
is,
they
yeah.
call them, right?
Yeah, and vice versa, and I've seen some running feuds there. Wrexham is it's an up-and-coming town.
Is it?
I'd say
It's been up
up-and-coming.
and coming for a while, though, isn't it?
Well, it needed up-and-coming, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
it was a bit...
But, I mean, your knowledge of Wales is not bad, it has to be said.
No, my knowledge of Wales is very good indeed.
Yeah.
Now then, talking about great landmasses and all that,
Yeah.
when we come back, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about new evidence I have. The Arctic ice caps have expanded by 40%.
Have they?
Expanded.
Really?
So, all this global warming and all that, load of baloney.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out around about 6 hours from now. Just follow us at the Two Mics, and you can get it on Android as well as iTunes. A couple of tweets to read out to you in text as well. Alan in London says, was it not also Clayton Moore who was the Lone Ranger as another famous real-life Clayton?
I got that. Somebody said the most famous Clayton ever was this Clayton Moore guy who was at the Lone Ranger.
Right.
Do you know what we said about the Lone Ranger?
What did you say?
Do you know why it was so clever for him to wear a mask?
Why?
Because if he ever wanted to work undercover as a law enforcer, all he had to do was take the mask off.
Yeah, right.
See what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I never was quite convinced by the mask. It wasn't much of a mask, was it? I mean, if you took the mask off, you'd still recognise it.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I think so.
No, you would not.
I think you would.
You would not. Do you remember Michael Stipe of REM?
I do.
Do you remember him playing at Wembley once in a concert?
Yeah.
When he had a painted blue Lone Ranger's
That's right.
mask on his
He
face.
did, yeah.
He looked ridiculous.
And he didn't look any different.
No, he didn't look
That's what I'm saying.
But he looked ridiculous, yeah. But that wasn't a black mask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't. I mean, I think if you're going to wear a mask to disguise your face,
Yeah.
I mean, you wore that Phantom of the Opera mask at Newcastle.
Yeah, I did,
But
yeah.
unfortunately, it was
Yeah.
quite small,
Yeah.
so it
Well,
didn't really make you look like the Phantom of the Opera.
That was ridiculous. It was half my face.
Well,
which
no,
is
it
what
was
had
about
to be.
it was about a quarter of your face.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it was quite a small.
It was like
mask,
a
yeah.
child's
What
one.
happened to that? Somebody nicked it from the
Did
dressing
somebody
room
nick it?
afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know.
somebody's
Well,
got
maybe
it,
it was
yeah.
your mate from the Newcastle Chronicle who came to interview you rather than the
Yes.
two of us after the show.
That's right.
Derek in Pencoith has also
Pencoith?
said that Porky's forgotten Clayton Moore. Now, how about this from Cliff, who says, come on, MG, tell the nation that Chelsea are getting thumped by those New York reserves
4-2, apparently.
Which apparently is indeed the score. Ian from Leicester says, "Hi guys, the ranch in Texas is 797.698 square miles."
Wow!
So there you go. That's
so
the size of
that
it.
could be. Hang on. That could be.
Apparently, well, I was going to say Texas, according to somebody who doesn't give their name, is the size of France.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is utterly amazing. Now, got one here from Brocky.
Yeah.
Says, surprising that Porky never had a stroke or one of his heart never packed up whilst on the boxing machine. Well, I'm resilient. Another one here. Now, you see, this is an unfair accusation. This is from JPK.
Oh, yeah.
He says, how come Mike Parry hijacks the interview with the moon guy and gives some anecdotes and half-truths about the moon?
Yeah.
A.L.A. Shepton.
Very much your style.
Alan Shepton? I don't know who he is.
Well, you were talking about Shepton Mallet before, weren't you?
Shepton Mallet? What's that got to do with it?
Well, you mentioned Shepton Mallet earlier.
Shepton Mallet. Oh, yeah, I said, the number of people. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, the USS Theodore Roosevelt and Shepton Mallet the same size. That's right, yeah.
Now, here's what the professor has to say. He says the Texas Rangers Museum isn't in Austin, it's in Waco. I've been to the museum a couple of times.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yes, it is. Because
you were in Waco, weren't you?
Yeah, we went to see it because of the Waco siege, right? And I remember we went down to Austin.
So while the siege was on, you decided to go and have a look at a museum?
Definitely.
Well, what about if something had kicked off at the siege?
Well, it didn't. It went on for 13 days. The siege. We knew it wasn't going to happen. And in fact, I then.
Well, it did happen though.
No, yeah.
Were you there when it finally kicked off, or were you in a bar?
No, I was in Britain. No, seriously. I told the office nothing was going to happen. I said this guy could be here for months.
Yeah.
I said, and then I was due to go home.
Right.
And so
so you checked out.
I checked out.
This is just part of your roving role as the US editor.
Yeah, that's right.
So your advice to them was completely wrong then.
Well, I flew back from Fort Worth, Dallas.
Yeah.
Because
Dallas Fort Worth.
Dallas Fort Worth. That's right. Yeah. And I said, look, this is gone forever. I said, this guy's a nut. I said, he's just going to give up eventually. It won't be a problem. So I then flew home. So then I got into Heathrow, obviously, and then I met some friends and went out for a big, sort of welcome home lunch in Surrey.
Right.
And then went back to what was my sister's home, actually, because I didn't have a sort of permanent home in England at the time.
Yeah.
And, she said, oh, have you seen this? Come in the kitchen here. Have you seen what's... And I walked in the kitchen and there's this picture on the telly of this massive blaze.
Yeah.
And I said, what's that? Is that Lambeth Palace or something? She said, no, she says that place in America where that nutty guy...
The Branch Davidians.
Oh, I said, yeah, right. I said, fully enough, I've spent the last 4 days there. That's a pity.
Well, didn't everybody else who went out to the siege stay there, though?
Well, some people did, but everybody drifted off, to be honest, by then. Because, another things, it's how long is a piece of string? You never know when the guy's going to set fire to it.
I know, but, I mean, considering the FBI were all kind of armed and getting themselves tooled up, ready to go in, you might have got some information and some intelligence from them.
Do you know what? The FBI weren't the main agency there.
It was the ATF, wasn't it?
It was the ATF. What's that? Arms...
Alcohol, tobacco and firearms.
That's right, absolutely. And they were the main agency there. And they
were very heavily criticised, weren't they, for going in when they did.
Yeah, they did. Because what happened was, they announced they were going in by climbing up on the roof.
Yeah.
So he said, they don't know. And he had pre-arranged buckets of petrol all over the blinking Branch Davidian monastery, as
David
he called
Koreshi, his name was, wasn't it?
David what?
David Koreshi.
That's right, yeah. And so he just said, set fire to it. And they set fire to it, and they all burnt to death. It's unbelievable.
Shocking. Here's one from David in Essex. So Porky, the expert on the Royal Navy, thinks a stoker on a ship is someone who pokes the coal in the furnace with a poker. Does he toast a crumpet at the same time?
I didn't say that, you idiot.
Heimer says, Porky, it's no wonder you can't generate any power with those short arms of yours. You should buy a T-shirt with matching cufflinks.
No, I don't think so. Old JPK comes back with a note of apology. Butlins boxing champ, dead-eyed dick at darts. What other latent skills do you possess, Porky? Well, too lengthy to go through them, to be honest, at the moment.
Modesty prevents you from getting carried away.
Actually, I can't even remember some of the skills I have, to be honest, because I had a long life and a variety of successes, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Now, once again, just to read out the scores, Porky had 3 goes, 4-7-7, 4-2-4, 5-4-5, but unfortunately all of them beaten by my one punch, which was 6-4-1.
Hang on. What about my 7-2-7?
No, I'm talking about the video, right?
Oh, well, never mind the video. That's just selective video.
No, it's not selective video. The video was the competition. That was it. That was the competition. The fact that you've now gone on since and claimed to have got more of a score is not really the issue, is it?
Well, I have got more of a score.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I mean, if Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have a fight, and Floyd Mayweather wins, and at the end, Manny Pacquiao goes back into the ring on his own and starts punching the air and says, "Actually, I've got some much better punches now that the fight's over."
Yes.
He doesn't get the title, does he?
Well, it wasn't a fight, was it?
Well, it was a competition.
I see, by the way, that you've taken now to this sort of grovelling broadcasting tactic, which I see other people using.
What's that?
A big thanks to Astro Clay for talking to us about the moon landings.
That was put out by the 2 mics. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, people love coming on our show for the benefit of this, expanding on their knowledge.
What's wrong with thanking somebody for doing for doing something good?
Well, look, I'm only thinking aloud, but I think it should be the other way around. I think they should be thanking us.
Well, they might thank us as well. I believe
allowing them airspace on the Two Mike show. Yeah, airtime even.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I'm a great believer in being civilised about these things.
Well, I like to be civilised, but not too much grovelling.
I mean, it's not grovelling to say thank you. You see, this is part of your twisted persona.
Oh, really?
You think by thanking someone that's somehow grovelling. It's not.
No, I don't at all.
No, it's not. I mean, we also thanked Lucy Campbell, who came on the other night. Do you remember her?
Oh, she was wonderful.
Yeah. Do you object to me thanking her?
Not at all. She got a bit of criticism, actually, from people who said she was the ultimate yes-no interviewee.
Yeah, I don't think that was true.
I think that was very unkind.
I
thought she gave us some great guidance.
I thought she was great.
Right, I better tell you about the Arctic, hadn't I? Because this is what we were going to
run out of time. We're going to get a new ice age soon.
Yeah, the Arctic, well, there is going to be a new ice age. That was one of my predictions from last night.
Yeah, we've got another prediction for you coming up shortly.
Actually. Okay, fine. Right, the Arctic ice pack has dramatically expanded despite years of doom-laden predictions, and it was melting for good British scientists. So that's British scientists, okay? The best in the world.
What?
The most reliable scientists in the world.
Again?
No, they're the most reliable scientists in the world.
Rubbish.
Fair and accurate. British scientists discovered that it grew by more than 40% in 2013 thanks to cooler than expected temperatures. Findings by experts at University College London, one of the greatest universities in the world, one of the most highly respected. In a recent listing of the world's best universities, it was number 8.
I don't disagree with that.
I recall.
My daughter's currently doing her master's degree there.
Oh, OK. The findings by experts at University College London suggest the polar cap is more resilient than first thought and is able to quickly bounce back. Despite several warm summers, there is still about a third more ice in the region than there was 5 years ago. Isn't that incredible?
Well, it is incredible.
Isn't
but the trouble
that incredible?
The trouble is with all of these reports that come out is that you get one report in one direction one time and then another report in the other direction the next time. So I mean, it's almost impossible to know, isn't it? Because while you hear that one part of the Earth is cooling down, another part of the Earth is warming up.
Yeah, but listen to this.
Go on.
3 years ago, Professor Peter Wadhams of Cambridge University forecast that the Arctic would be ice-free by 2015 or 2016 at the latest.
Okay.
The US Navy, that august body we've been talking about with USSR Theodore Roosevelt, the US Navy predicted last year that melting sea ice would mean the Arctic would be navigable during the summer months by 2030 for the first time. I mean, what a load of, honestly... a load of old, kung fu-y.
Kung fu-y.
And US politician Al Gore and Secretary of State John Kerry backed up those endorsements. The assessments now seem unlikely on current findings.
So Al Gore's now agreeing that actually he's
got it wrong.
That he's got it wrong. Is that what he's saying?
No, I'm saying that...
I don't believe that.
No. Al Gore backed up the assessment by the US Navy that there'd be a gap through the Northwest Passage by 2014.
Okay, right. Yeah, this is a guy who used to spend £30,000 a year on electricity for his house.
That's right, yeah.
With all the light bulbs that he had all the time. And he was the guy that was telling us all that we'd have to somehow do things
What was that ridiculous propaganda film he put out? An unfortunate...
An Inconvenient Truth.
An Inconvenient Truth.
Which was called An Inconvenient Pack of Lies by a judge.
Yeah, it was, It was, wasn't it?
Because they wanted to show it in all the schools in Britain, and the judge says, no, you can't do it.
No, because it's gerrymandered.
Because it's, well, it is at the very least.
Exactly,
Now, final score, according to Mars, who's tweeted me, Chelsea 2, New York Red Bulls 4. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know about how meaningless these games are, I suppose there's no telling you at all. And here's one from Woodenhead who says, Mike Parry fights like George Foreman. A George Foreman grill, that is.
You what? That's a bit harsh.
Very harsh indeed. Now, Porkyvision coming up very, very shortly.
Yep.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Porkyvision coming up in a little while. But you and I and Mr. Parry have been talking all this week about the Predictor. The Selco Predictor is back this week. And I'm going to tell you all how to get involved in it and possibly get your chance to win £500.
Yeah.
But we've also been asking you to come up with a little prediction every single day. And one of them was, in fact, that we might have a new Ice Age coming, I think, in 15 years' time. So tell us what your prediction is for today.
Right. Well, my prediction for today is still with nature, because I'm obsessed by nature and the way that we're going. I'm predicting that the puffin is going to become a very popular bird in Britain.
The puffin? Well,
the puffin
is a popular bird.
No, in parts of southern Britain as well, okay?
Right, yeah.
Now, I also predict bitterns, nightjars and curl buntings are going to be among several threatened bird species that will benefit from climate change. They'll be spreading out to more parts of Britain. I know this because I've been doing my research and my prediction is based on scientific fact, okay?
Right.
Bees, wasps, earwigs, ants, plants, they're all going to become more prevalent. Because what I'm saying is 3,000 plants are thriving due to climate change, OK? And the animals respond to and live accordingly alongside the life of plants, all right?
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you, this is a prediction.
Are earwigs going to die out? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're going to respond. Yeah. Because there is, although climate change is not happening in the Arctic, where we've already told people on this show already that the ice pack is expanding, it is a feature of some parts of what we call... It's not Middle Earth, but...
Middle Earth?
No, it's not Middle Earth.
I thought that was a fictitious place to do with Lord of the Rings.
It's middle-positioned Earth. Middle-positioned Earth, OK? So birds that inhabit upland areas, like heather moors, you know, like in Yorkshire, I was telling you about how good Yorkshire people are yesterday, the friendliest people in this country, apparently, which include the cuckoo, the red grouse, as I remember, the twite and the hen harrier. They're going to become rarer, because the temperatures, if they do go up, means reduced rainfall, greater evaporation, dries out the bogs they live in, OK?
Yeah.
And reduces the availability of insects as food. That's what I think is going to happen. And there are going to be slightly more winners than losers by 2080, when the average global temperature could rise by 1 degree centigrade.
Is that right? Well, that's a fascinating prediction. I'm sure people will be keeping track of all this stuff to see whether or not...
the puffin will be in your back garden within years.
Puffins, by the way, are very, very prevalent in parts of the sort of off the coast west of Scotland.
Exactly.
And if you go to Turnberry, the place we talked about, which is now called Trump Turnberry, right?
Sure.
There's a very famous great big rock that you can see from the hotel and from most of the parts of the golf course called Ailsa Craig.
Yes.
And that is a home to puffins.
Absolutely.
Puffins all over the place.
Yeah, but you could find them in the home counties very soon. That's my prediction in a nutshell. Puffins in the home counties very soon.
Well, they are very, very beautiful birds. That's Porky's prediction for the day.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about being quite so elaborate, because all you have to do now that the Premier League season is just around the corner is go and register for the new Selco Predictor. Last week, one lucky listener won £500. His name was Douglas Morris, just for signing up. And this week, there's another £500 to give away, and all you got to do is sign up. So go to talksport.com/predictor right now and get yourself involved, because it's a fascinating process, and we always do reasonably well, I think, during the course of the year on predicting the old results. Mind you, I wouldn't have predicted 4-2 to the New York Red Bulls reserves against Chelsea, I'd have to say.
No, exactly. That's one prediction nobody would have come up with.
Now, I was telling you earlier that, in fact, I told you this yesterday, we never got around to doing the story, that there's a new Ryanair story. Michael O'Leary is a man that you've often praised for being one of the great entrepreneurs in this country. But they've got a competition going on now because they're celebrating their 30th birthday, right? And what they're going to do is, as a result of this competition, the lucky few who win are going to have their names and their pictures put on the side of the plane.
How ridiculous
So when you
is
fly on Ryanair, you know how sometimes when you used to fly on Virgin, they would have sort of one of those pictures of a sort of voluptuous-looking woman from the Second World War.
The plane,
on British Airways planes, they've sometimes got names. And all that. I mean, you said to me planes never have names. But according to Ryanair, what they're going to do is they're going to get... basically a few people to put to win this competition, put their faces and their names on the planes, and then if they turn up, they get to fly for free. So it's kind of like a sort of reward scheme.
So they're not going to paint it on. They put a hologram or something on the side of the plane.
No, it's going to be painted on.
They can't paint them on.
Yeah, they are.
It takes ages to paint something on the side of a plane. It does.
You could probably do it in half a day, I would have thought.
Well, even half a day is a long time for somebody turning up at an airport. I think it's a ridiculous...
People have until the 31st of August to enter the 30 Names, 30 Planes competition on Ryanair's Facebook page, right? And they've got to upload a photo and explain why their face deserves to be on the side of a Boeing 737. I think you should enter.
I think it's utterly ludicrous.
Images that are offensive, unlawful or sexually suggestive will not be considered.
I think,
but the winning entries will be selected by an independent judging panel on the 1st of September, and the winners should be prepared for their faces to be featured on the planes.
I think
it's a great idea.
I don't. I think it's ridiculous, honestly. Well, I just think, all you want when you go to an airport is comfort and safety in the airport lounge itself, comfort and safety getting on the plane, comfort and safety in flying the plane and getting off at the other end.
Yeah.
All the rest is just gimmick and nonsense, and if you're spending money on that, I'd rather Ryanair spent it on, getting bigger seats or something like that, or less congestion on their planes.
Well, they're never going to get bigger seats. I mean, these are the people who were talking about charging people a less amount of money just to stand.
Well, I don't mind that. I think that's okay. If you're on a short haul flight of an hour and a half, there's no reason why you can't stand.
Though. Well, there is, because safety concerns would suggest that that's not a good idea.
No, not at all. Once an aeroplane is in the air at its designated cruising height, right, anybody in a plane can get up and move around. So you can't say it unsettles a plane.
Yeah,
of course you don't want people walking around when it's taking off or landing.
Well, that's my point. They wouldn't be able to be standing and walking around while the plane was taking off and landing. So therefore, if they took all the seats out, which is what his plan was, and people would just be kind of strapped to a pole, effectively.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound very good, does it?
Well, I think it does, because if the cost of the airfare was half of what it is now, that again would generate the world economy with people moving around, because that's what it's all about. Mobility of labour generates wealth, but you wouldn't know that because you never studied economics.
Well, I did actually. I studied at university, unlike you, who studied town planning.
Do you remember years ago in the fairgrounds, there used to be like a wire cage where you got in and you were strapped literally against the outer wall of the wire cage.
Well, you didn't need to be strapped, did you?
Is that right?
No.
And then it went spinning around. Then the centrifugal force sort of pinned you to the wall.
Funnily enough, I went on one of those in Blackpool when we had what my father described as the year of the short corn, and we didn't have that much money, so we went on holidays in Blackpool instead of going somewhere in Europe.
The year of the what?
He called it the year of the short corn.
A Scottish expression for having no money.
Well, it's a kind of farming expression.
Is it?
You know, when the corn doesn't grow very well.
Oh, I see.
And so the harvest is not very good.
Good description. I like that.
Yeah, that was one of his phrases. And so we went to Blackpool.
Crazy old dad. Yeah,
we went and we saw the laughing, the laughing man as you go into the Blackpool
I know.
illuminations, and it was great.
Yeah.
And we went on one of those machines, and I couldn't believe it, because you go on, and then suddenly, as you went round and round and round, faster and faster, the floor disappears.
Yes.
And you're just left stuck to the outside of it.
That's right, yeah.
Made me feel quite sick, actually.
Do you know what I always fancied? And I still fancy it, actually, because I read a book about it recently. Getting a motorbike ride on the Wall of Death. That must be fantastic.
Well,
because that's easy, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it's easy.
It is easy.
I mean, you and I had a little motorbike race, didn't we?
We
with
did,
those mini motorbikes at the Birmingham Motorbike Show. Well, and they were quite hard to handle because they were so small.
Yeah, but we were encouraged to crash into each other.
No, that's true.
And then when we did start crashing into each other...
Well, you started crashing into me
I
was beating you.
And then people said, why are you crashing into each other for? We said, because that's what the organisers asked us to do, you know.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And then they accused us of being vandals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
shocking.
Ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I've never ridden a motorbike solo. Have you?
Well, I had a scooter once.
Well, that's not the same.
It got nicked.
Well, it's not the same.
Well, it is.
No, it's not.
A scooter's on two wheels. You turn the throttle and it goes forward.
Yeah, but a motorcycle has gears. Scooter doesn't. Scooters are automatic.
A motorcycle doesn't always have to have gears.
Well, most of them do, though.
No.
And they have a clutch, and you see the way that people change them.
That's too complicated. You can get on bikes these days. I mean, you get automatic cars, so you get automatic motorbikes.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to have a motorbike, you don't want it to be automatic, do you? That's the whole point.
You know, we're not Barry Sheen, are we? You know, you get on a motorbike to get from A to B, mate, not because you're...
Well, no, you just said you want to go on the wall of... You said you want to go on the Wall of Death.
I do want to go on the Wall of Death. That would be brilliant.
Well, I think that involves knowing a little bit more about motorbikes than just thinking, they're all automatic.
No, it doesn't, because they couldn't possibly give you a motorbike that changes gears, because every time you change gear, you'd fall off the Wall of Death.
Well, I don't know.
You have to keep up a constant speed.
Yeah.
And you can't suddenly, change gear here. If you did that, literally, you'd plummet to earth and kill yourself.
Well, maybe that's why, in order to get up to the speed that you get up to, in order to save yourself at certain points, you need the gears and the ratios and all that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just a question of, like, you know, when you spin a hula hoop around your waist, the reason it keeps up is the centrifugal force.
Is that right?
And it's the same for the Wall of Death.
Can you do that as well?
Could I do that?
Yeah.
I used to be an expert at that when I was a kid. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I don't think I've ever mastered that particular thing.
Oh, I have.
More of a sort of girly thing to do that when I was growing
up. Well, not really. It was, you know... I mean, actually, didn't that guy who sang Loca Colita Coco, or if it's called,
what?
You know, that Latin American song that was very famous?
Yeah.
He used to do that in his videos.
Living La Vida Loca.
That's it. That's the guy, yeah.
I don't think you want him endorsing your hula hoop expertise, but that's another story. We are the Two Mics. Coming up next, it's time for Porkyvision.
On DAB, digital radio, and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
That music can only mean one thing. It is that time of the week when Porkyvision, the world's best TV review, kicks off. Mr. Parry's been excelling himself, I'd say, in the last few weeks with all sorts of fascinating facts and interesting TV shows that you've been watching. What do you got for us this week, Mr. Parry?
Now, what have we got this week? Let me just see here. Right, here we go. Right, now then, I tell you what I saw a bit of, this week.
Yeah.
And it was because, obviously, being a TV reviewer, I have to have the telly on in the background all the time while I'm doing other things,
of course, yeah.
Can't sit there all day watching television.
No.
But anyway, this ludicrous film came on called Robin and Marian, okay?
Yeah.
Now, this is a film about Robin Hood, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's been hundreds of films made about Robin Hood.
And Maid Marian.
Yeah, but this starred Sean Connery, tennis. Tennis, and, that means 10 o'clock, my name's Sean Connery.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Now, why it was ridiculous was that, first of all, it's the first Scottish Robin Hood, OK? We've never had a Scottish Robin Hood before.
Well, he wasn't Robin Hood, though, was he?
He was, yeah, he was Robin Hood.
Oh, he was Robin Hood?
Yeah, he was Robin Hood.
Oh, I thought he was an older sort of statesman in it or something.
No, I think he was Robin Hood.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sure he was Robin Hood. I'm pretty sure he was Robin Hood.
Right.
Right, so anyway, now that's not the most ludicrous bit about it, that he's got a Scottish Robin Hood.
Yeah.
The most ludicrous part about it is that he falls for a nun who's played by Audrey Hepburn.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then for
it's quite an old film, then, this.
Well, I suppose so, because Audrey Hepburn's dead, isn't she?
She is.
She is dead, yeah. Because she appears in that Galaxy advert, doesn't she? Moon River.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's a bit of gerrymandering, isn't it? That?
Yeah. But anyway, what is most offensive about this film is that Robin Hood, played by Sean Connery, ends up in Sherwood Forest rogering a nun who is played by Audrey Hepburn.
That doesn't sound very good.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, honestly.
I just found a picture of it there.
Yeah, well, there you go, you see.
1971, apparently.
1971.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I found this wholly offensive.
Sorry, 1976.
1976. I find this wholly offensive because, Robin Hood was supposed to steal from the rich and give to the poor, but he seems to spend most of his time... and he said to her, can't you take your clothes off? I mean, he said it quite blatantly.
Yeah.
He meant actually her veil and all that, so he could see her face and all that.
Yeah.
But they went much further than that. Now, to me, in the eyes of God, this is a sin. It's a terrible sin. And why Sean Connery was involved, I have no idea. He should never have given up James Bond, because I've never seen Sean Connery in a decent film since James Bond.
Have you not?
Yeah, he was rubbish in The Untouchables.
He was great in The Untouchables.
He was rubbish,
I don't agree.
where he played a Scottish member of the FBI or whatever they were, fighting Al Capone.
Well, he was a Chicago police officer, wasn't he?
Well, supposed to be a Chicago police officer, but Chicago police officers, she don't talk with a Scottish accent, do they?
I thought he was great in that.
I thought he was rubbish.
When he catches Kevin Costner standing on the bridge and he throws his piece of paper into the river, and says, what are you doing now? If you want to you want to throw trash, take your trash home.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and then Kevin Costner says to him, haven't you got anything better to do?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I have. But I'm not doing it right now, am I?
That's right, yeah.
I thought it was great.
Because he's Scottish.
Brilliant scene.
I thought he was rubbish in The Young, what's-her-namer?
The Young what's-her-namer?
The guy with the whip. What's his called?
Indiana
Jones. Young Indiana Jones. When he played Indiana Jones' father, I thought he was rubbish in that. Right. Utterly rubbish.
What about, he was in a great film with Catherine Zeta-Jones about a robbery. Do you remember seeing that one?
No, what was that called?
Well, I can't remember what it was called, but
it wasn't the Crown
that's
affair,
right.
was it?
Entrapment. He was in.
Entrapment. Okay, he was rubbish in that, and he was absolute rubbish in this Robin Hood one.
Yeah.
Because first of all, he's as I say, he's getting into intimate relationships with a nun in Sherwood Forest. I don't
see why you should be imposing your rather twisted moral code.
Well, I'm sorry.
On top of a Hollywood film.
That completely offends me. And then, towards the end of the film, he decides he's going to be a hero. So he goes out and he challenges what's his name? The guy who runs Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah. Challenges him to a 1-to-1 fight, okay? And they're big mates. But they say they've got to kill each other. But he turns up in armour. Now, I know my history of Robin Hood and his band of merry men, and I can tell you they didn't have any armour, right?
Yeah.
All they had was a bow and an arrow and a staff.
Yeah.
And they dug a few holes in the ground that the Sheriff of Nottingham's horses fell into. But they certainly didn't have armour.
There was armour around in those days, wasn't there? Because it was during the time of the Crusades.
Robin Hood didn't have any armour.
How do you know that?
Because I've seen all the Robin Hood films and he hasn't got any armour in any of the others. No, he hasn't.
You know that Robin Hood didn't have any armour because you've seen all the films?
Yeah.
Is that genuinely your defence?
Well, I've seen some documentaries about Robin Hood as well.
What, with some real footage?
And
real footage?
And actually...
Real footage?
Don't be ridiculous. And actually, I used to drink in Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem.
Oh, well, that seals it for me, then.
Which is the oldest pub in Nottingham, built in the side of Nottingham Castle, where, in fact, the Sheriff of Nottingham used to live and used to plot against Robin Hood in the forest nearby, right? And I've read the history transcripts in there.
Have you?
And he definitely didn't have any armour.
Toilets. I mean, what about Richard Lionheart? Did he have any armour?
Well, yeah, he did, because he was King of England. He went off to try and slay Saladin, didn't he, in Jerusalem and all that.
Robin Hood at some point wasn't he part of the Crusades at some stage? Who? Robin Hood. The guy you're talking about, Robin Hood, you know.
Well, that was when he was Robin of Throxley or somewhere. And he came back from the Crusades. And what are you laughing at? I don't know what you're laughing at.
Robin of Throxley.
He was, that was his name.
Sounds like some kind of STD.
Well, he was, and he came back and found that somebody had nicked his castle and all his wealth and all that.
I think, wasn't it?
Loxley, that's right. And so therefore he had to become an outlaw, didn't he?
Yeah.
But this film was rubbish because Robert Shaw was the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Right.
Now, you've got an American guy playing the Sheriff of Nottingham, right, with an American accent.
Yeah. They'll have to get a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you said in Jaws?
That's right, yeah, get a bigger boat. And you've got a Scots guy, Sean Connery, who can't disguise his Scottish accent no matter where he goes.
He's one from Woodenhead. He says, why does Parry's Scottish accent sound exactly like his Van Hal one?
Well, no, he doesn't. No. I'll do. Sean Connery is, hang on, timber type accent. But anyway,
sounds like a pirate.
Yeah, right. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is rubbish. So Robert Shaw, the American Sheriff of Nottingham, and a Scottish guy is Robin Hood. It was rubbish. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah.
Now, the other one...
Becky says this. Shocking. Films involving nuns being rogered with their clothes on.
Exactly.
Hashtag Porkyvision. They don't want to make a habit of it.
No, I like that. That's very good indeed. But honestly...
Well, what about The Hunt for Red October? EP says, how about that?
Oh, yeah, that was rubbish. That was rubbish as well. That was rubbish as well.
And he also says he was brilliant in The Rock.
Because then you've got a Scotsman, right, with a Scots accent in The Hunt for Red October, playing a Russian
submarine
commander. It was ludicrous. Ludicrous. Anyway, so that was rather offensive. I couldn't understand...
Seen anything else this week?
Oh, and I'll tell you how it ended. How it ended was Audrey Hepburn...
He gets the girl.
No, she decides to poison him with hemlock.
Really?
So she gives him a drink after the battle and said, "Oh, my hero, he did very well. Here, I'll drink this." Right. And as he's drinking it, he says, "My body's gone all numb." And she says, "Yeah, I've given you hemlock."
Which is the effect she normally had on him.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit unfortunate, isn't it?
So then...
is she like an evil abbot-ess, then?
No, she I think, reading between the lines, she thought he was dying of his wounds from the battle.
Oh, I see.
So she was trying to sort of help him die without pain.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Like sort of Dignitas
because he'd been
scenario.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was the middle-aged Dignitas. Because he'd been cut off by the sword that Robert Shaw had hit him with, you know. So, but then, the most pathetic one at the end, "Give me my bow," and he gets his bow, and ping, he fires an arrow out of the window. Yeah. This is the castle window. Just happened to be no glass in it at the time, so, the arrow goes pinging out. And,
I don't think they had glass in those days, did they?
I don't know. And then he says... Wherever the arrow lands, I'll be buried. It's all pathetic stuff. But anyway, now, the other things I've seen today.
Yeah, what else have you seen?
Well, do you know what I saw for the first time ever this week? And I thought I must see it because, Sex in the City.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever used to watch that?
I did, yeah.
Utter rubbish.
Well, I wouldn't say it was rubbish.
Utter dribble.
It was very much of its time.
4 menopausal women, for want of a better word.
I wouldn't say they were menopausal.
Talking...
They were not menopausal women.
No, they were.
No, they weren't.
They all kept talking about the menopause,
yeah,
honestly.
But they weren't menopausal. They were pre-menopausal because one of them had a baby, didn't she? You can't have a baby if you're menopausal.
Well, I don't know about that. All I know is that's all they... In the episode I was talking about, that's all they were talking about, how to face up to life without a man and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I can't imagine any male person ever watching an episode of that without thinking this is
person like you.
Trash, eh?
No male person like you. I mean, there was a time when everyone was watching Sex and the City.
Well, I didn't...
Men and women.
What was the attraction of it?
Well, because it was one of those things that was supposedly a kind of... I don't know, it wasn't like a cartoon version, but it was a summation of the lives of an awful lot of people living in metropolitan Manhattan.
Yes.
Or metropolitan London, actually, where the women were very busy, very successful, very, very finding it very difficult to find a man.
Unbelievable.
And as men, were also finding it very difficult to understand these women.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean. So I thought that was rubbish. Now, because we're running out of time...
about 20 years late on that.
Hang on, well, it's the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah, right.
Now...
Did you like any of the 4 women in it, then? Or not?
No, not really.
No,
not really.
Because everyone has a favourite woman from
No,
Sex and the City.
I found them loose by moral and loose by jawbone, to be honest.
Like that.
Anyway, now the one thing I did see, right, I caught up on it, and I didn't do this last week because I'd have been accused of blowing the plot, but I saw the episode of Coronation Street where it was revealed that Deirdre had died, and it was brilliant.
Was it?
Do you know who I think is the most brilliant actor on television?
It was revealed that she had died.
Well,
how did you know she was died?
No, what was supposed to happen was she was supposed to come back from a holiday to a 60th birthday party arranged in the Rovers, and they're all waiting for her, and they got the cake and all, it's the usual thing, the banners up, welcome Deirdre and all that. And then her mate turns up and says, I'm sorry, she died this afternoon sitting in my garden, So it was all a bit sad, really.
Yeah.
But you see, what was
Isn't
brilliant...
that a massive plot change, then, if the woman who's been in the show for such a long time is actually now dead?
No, because she died in real life.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what they did is, when she got ill, she was taken out of the programme, to recover. Yeah. But she never recovered, she died.
But so they had to come up with some way of doing
it. Exactly. But do you know why it was so brilliant and almost spooky? Because what you were watching was not a dramatisation of a character in the show dying.
Right.
You were watching the genuine grief of all the characters in the show for their friend who was also an actress who died.
Right.
So they didn't have to act.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I tell you who's brilliant. Old Ken Barlow, who's played by William Roach, and he's in his 80s now. And he's easily the best actor in Coronation Street. In fact, I think he's the best actor on television. In fact, honest to God, if Ken Barlow made a film, he'd win an Oscar tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant actor. His mannerisms, his moods, his expressions, he's absolutely brilliant. And I have to say, I take my hat off to the guy because, he not only handled that one brilliantly, but they were all grieving for old Deirdre, who was played by Anna Kirkbride. Right. You'll have seen, her real-life funeral just a week or two ago when they all turned up. And
is there going to be kind of other storylines that will still involve her in some way, shape or form?
No, she's dead. The next storyline will be her funeral.
No, I know that.
In Coronation Street.
But what I'm saying is that, will they have had to rewrite the whole show because of what's happened to her?
No, because she's been out of it for so long, because she was ill.
Yeah.
She's a very heavy smoker, apparently, and, it gave her some sort of breathing problems, all that kind of stuff, or whatever. I don't know. That's what somebody told me. But but anyway, all I'm saying is it was really brilliant stuff, and it proves that Coronation Street, despite its experiment over the last sort of 3 or 4 years to involve every contemporary problem known to man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything under the sun, dementia and all sorts of things, is still like a real crowd puller. It gets great figures and all that kind of stuff. That, to me, is the programme of the week. And Ken Barlow, in my view, should be legendary. William Roach should be given an Oscar.
Well, he is legendary.
Should be given a television Oscar. But you never see him at the awards, getting them accepting the gongs and all that kind of stuff.
He gets something, doesn't he?
Well, no, he doesn't. I don't think he's ever had a soap award, you see. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Anyway, look, that's the lowdown on television this week, kids. Tune in this time next week. I'll give you another scintillating... what are you laughing at? Another scintillating catch-up.
From 1976.
No.
Right.
No, Connery's rubbish.
Yeah.
Honestly, after James Bond, he should have retired. Useless.
Unbelievable. That was Porkyvision, Britain's best TV review. Same time next week for some more insights into the world of the small screen. This is Talk Sport.
Locker Kalita Coco. Locker Kalita Coco.
It's uncanny, that.
Locker Kalita Coco.
You see, we got the same number of syllables.
Locker Kalita Coco.
Locker Kalita Coco.
Well, that's what it sounded like. What is it called?
Living La Vida Loca.
Oh, okay.
Ricky Martin.
Well, okay.
I was telling you, he bought this amazing apartment in Manhattan.
Yeah,
one of the things
Columbus
that happened
Circle.
After Columbus Circle, which they completely redeveloped.
Is that's Rockefeller Centre, isn't it?
No, it's further up. It's up at Central Park South.
Okay,
Columbus Circle. There used to be the New York Coliseum there, where they used to do a lot of bands and stuff like that.
Right.
They knocked it all down, and they built this incredibly sort of lavish shopping centre.
Yeah.
The centrepiece of which was a Mandarin Oriental hotel.
Yes.
Where I had a very nice lunch once with a very dear friend of mine who since died, actually.
Who's that?
Who was a lawyer up in Scotland, a guy called Paul McBride.
And what did he die of?
He suddenly died in his sleep. He was on holiday in somewhere like Pakistan.
Things happen.
And he was in his 40s, and a really young guy. He was one of the guys that was a sort of young genius lawyer, and he was being tipped to be the sort of Attorney General of Scotland and all that. And he used to come in and do our paper, night lawyer stuff.
That's terrible.
And a very, very, very funny guy. brilliant, and just suddenly died.
But that happened to my mate on the boat, I told you, in Venice. The boat docks in Venice, he doesn't get off. They found him in his cabin.
Yeah, but he was
cabin.
a bit older, wasn't he? I mean,
he was 63,
This guy was only in his 40s,
but,
and otherwise completely healthy.
But remember our great pal and great journalist mate at the Express, went on to work for the Mail, Ross
Benson.
Ross Benson. Yeah. He brought his son home from a Chelsea football match. Yeah. And they lived not very far away, somewhere in Fulham or something like that. Went to bed and never got up.
I know.
He died in his sleep. Staggering. It's a terrible thing, yeah.
But what I was going to say to you is that he took me because he wanted to go to this restaurant which had just opened, and he was one of these. He earned bucket loads of money.
Yes.
And we had this wonderful lunch there, which he insisted on paying for. And I think he ordered like a $500 bottle of wine, which was amazing.
Fantastic.
And I had to fly back to London that night.
Right.
And it was all a bit touch and go at one point.
Yeah.
It was, once
getting
you get
out to the airport. It always is, isn't it? When you fly on the day that you're eating in Manhattan, you've got to time it absolutely right to get out to the airport, otherwise you miss your flight.
Exactly right. Now, so what I was going to say was they rebuilt this whole place anyway, and Ricky Martin, the living La Vida Loca guy, bought this a proper penthouse, I have to say, over about 3 floors for something like $45 million.
Amazing.
And Jennifer Lopez bought the place next door.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
True. Now, one more thing to mention to you. I was just looking up, the whole Ken Barlow scenario.
Yes.
And do you know that he was awarded the honorary degree of Doctor of Letters by a university in this country? You know which one?
Now, you said that with a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah.
So, is it the University of Trent?
Yeah, it's University of Chester.
University of Chester?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So, there we are.
Now, that used to be Chester Teachers Training College, by the way.
Yeah.
It's on a place called Parkgate Road. It was a great pickup joint, when I was sort of 18.
The teacher training college?
Yeah, absolutely, for student teachers.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. And you could also smuggle yourself back in there at night, you know what I mean?
Really?
And that kind of stuff,
right.
with the student teachers that you met in local bars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a great place.
Shocking.
Yeah, and how it ever became a university, I've no idea, because it was only about the size of, like, a junior school, you know what I mean?
But it's like everything became a university.
Yeah, of course it did,
Including the University of the Trent, obviously.
Of course it did, yeah. Well, Bournemouth Technical College became Bournemouth Polytechnic and then Bournemouth University in the space of 10 years. And the campus expanded from literally one building to 1/3 of Bournemouth. You know what I mean?
And it's now this massive sort of centre of excellence for media training, isn't it?
It is. If you want a media degree, go to Bournemouth.
Several of my former colleagues and our lecturers down there.
Yeah, despite the fact that all media degrees are worthless to those inside the industry, nevertheless, they churn out these thousands of young people every year with media degrees, and I wish them the very best of luck in pursuit of their careers.
Very kind.
For obvious reasons. Now, do you know one of the great social pressures that we all suffer from day in, day out? And do it twice a night every time we work in here.
What's that?
Keeping your phone powered up.
Yes. Well, I do. I mean, at the moment, it's kind of getting down to somewhere like about 30%. So eventually, I shall have to charge it again.
Now, the reason this has come into the highlight, and I've seen somebody's written a book about this actually, which has now been reviewed because of what happened last week. Some chap last week on a train put the plug into a plug socket and was immediately reprimanded on the train. This guy...
Well, did he not get a fine? I think he got a ticket for it, didn't he?
Hang on, I've got it here. Robin Lee, 45-year-old arse, had plugged his phone into a handy socket while using the overground rail service from Hackney Wick in London to Camden Road in London.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this action led to his arrest for abstracting electricity under the 1968 Theft Act.
Abstracting it?
Yeah, abstracting.
Is that what they call it?
That's what it's called,
right.
abstracting it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I came back on a train from Newcastle after our concert.
Yeah.
Great concert, that, by the way. Our show, rather, in Newcastle last week. And I spent the whole journey virtually with my my phone plugged into a socket.
But if you're in
below
first
my
class,
seat.
you're allowed to do that, aren't you? Because they've got a socket right next to you.
But I thought you were allowed to put your phone socket into any plug anywhere.
Well, no, because if you get on a train, say a normal train, and you're in second class, the only place there's an actual plug is normally by the door, right? So if you're standing in the doorway...
I think I've been on trains even in second class where I've seen a load of plugs for phones recently.
No, because you've never been in second class, first of all.
No, I haven't.
First class.
True.
First class, normally it's provided. In the same way that when I was flying back from the States the last time, and I came back in premium economy or something, they had a charging point in the seat for your phone. Right. But if you're in regular economy, you don't get it.
You don't get it,
And I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I remember seeing the reaction on social media when this guy got arrested and charged, was they said, well, they're going to have to arrest an awful lot of Londoners because people on the overground will use those plugs. I mean, technically speaking, they're not supposed to be for the passengers.
they are
supposed to be for the cleaners and stuff, right?
Only for cleaners.
Yeah.
But I think it's ludicrous, and I think it's terribly small-minded and petty of a company. I mean, how much electricity are you stealing off them?
Yeah, I know.
When the electricity is being generated by the fact that the wheels on the train are going round.
Yeah.
It's a dynamo on the wheels. So you're not abstracting any electricity.
They're not paying a bill to, like, Scottish Power.
Have you ever been into a pub and asked them to charge your phone and they've turned you down?
How many times has that happened? I mean, I don't think I've ever been turned down.
I've never been turned down. And in fact, if I can't find one, and they are, do you know what? You won't believe this, but Wetherspoons pubs specialise in putting plugs near every table.
Do they?
Seriously. But it's something they do. You know, when I've been in there, they said there's a plug socket under your table.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went into a pub recently and I needed my phone charged. And I said, look, have you got a plug socket? And they said, no, you have to give it to me.
Yeah.
I'm reluctant to do that.
Yeah.
But you have to hand it over to the guy behind the bar.
Has your phone not got a lock on it, though? I mean, if somebody gets their hands on your phone, can you open it up immediately? See, my phone, for example, has a fingerprint lock.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, of course I do.
No, you don't.
I don't know how to use it, but well, it means a fingerprint identification to open and lock it.
So when I do that, right?
Yeah.
You can't open it. You either need a code, right, or you need my finger, in order to open it, right?
Well, I suppose I've got one on mine. But
well, that's what I'm asking. Have you got a lock on it? Because if you haven't,
well, I must have.
You should have.
Well,
do
you
have to type in some kind of code before you look at it?
Well, I don't know.
What do you don't know?
Well, I just switch it on.
Well, when you switch it on, can you then use it?
Yes, I can.
So you don't have to put a code in?
No.
So it hasn't got a lock on it?
Well, it must have the ability to have a lock. I just don't know how to use it.
But you should get one then.
Well, why?
Because if somebody finds your phone and you've lost your phone...
Well, I'm not going to lose my phone.
Well, how do you know that?
Because I know I'm not stupid enough to lose my phone. Well, I don't lose phones. I've never lost a phone.
Well, sometimes...
I've never lost a phone.
Yeah, but sometimes things happen by accident.
Do you know what? I'm amazed because in all the years that we've had mobile phones now, since halfway through our career, and the states of bladderation I've probably got myself into over that time, I've never lost a phone. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It is utterly extraordinary. In fact, Mr. Brazil came in the other week and he'd lost his, but
you did think you'd lost it. I remember a few weeks ago.
I did think I'd lost it, and then I. But even when I think I've done something wrong, I'm good enough to not have done something wrong.
Really?
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mr. Brazil came in the other week, and it's quite interesting actually. He'd lost it, but he'd lost it because he'd been travelling a lot.
Yeah.
He'd been away to the Sir Bobby Robson golf in Portugal, and he'd moved hotels and all this.
Yeah.
But when I said, "Oh, that's terrible, that ruined your life," he was relaxed about it because he said that something called that somebody had nicked all his, not nicked his numbers, his numbers have been automatically stored in something cloud.
Yeah, the cloud.
What's it called?
Yeah,
the cloud?
The cloud, yeah.
And how do your numbers get automatically stored there?
Well, it's a bit like sort of, if you imagine Wi-Fi, if you imagine the fact that you walk into a place and you can use the internet, right?
Yes.
How do you think that happens?
Well, you just access it with your phone.
Yeah, but where is it, though?
Well, it's not. It's in the ether.
Yeah, it's kind of all around you.
Yes, that's right.
Which is what the cloud is.
Well, yeah, but hang on. If the cloud's got all your numbers on your phone, because they don't know, can't people then go and access your numbers from the cloud?
Funnily enough, the hacking scenario, which happened about a few months ago, was as a result of people who had put things in the cloud.
That's what I'm saying.
Normally speaking, it's pretty secure, though. Now it's supposed to be more secure than ever.
Well,
but the worry though for more people, and certainly this has occurred to me in various times, is it depends what's on your phone as well. You might, I mean, you might still be able to retain your contacts, but there might be things like sensitive information on your phone that if somebody gets a hold of, it wouldn't be good. And so that's why you should always have a lock on it. Because if you, for example, give your phone to somebody behind a bar, and they charge it for you, that's fine if they can't open your phone up and start looking at it.
Why would people start going through your phone messages?
Because people do. They're curious.
And I mean, the problem is, if somebody did say, oh, let's see if he's got any interesting numbers.
Well, you might have some, sensitive phone numbers in there.
I mean, you and I have both got famous people's numbers on our phones because we deal with them on a daily or weekly basis.
You should lock your phone.
Hey, talking about famous people, by the way, I've just seen, just before we go, that our very good mate Piers Morgan, even though he didn't invite me to his 50th birthday party, is being tipped to become a regular presenter on GMTV morning show, which I think would be a great thing.
Good Morning Britain.
On the ITV breakfast show. Because when he stood in for Ben Shepherd a couple of months ago,
he was very good with Susanna Reid.
He's brilliant. He's a great TV presenter. I wish him the best of luck and hope he gets it because he will liven up that early morning programme. Definitely.
He will.
Yeah.
Well, we'll perhaps find out a bit more about that as the weeks go on.
Yeah.
Now, coming up tomorrow, don't forget, it's the Porky Quiz.
And
it's going to be on the Highway Code.
Highway Code,
so you
that's
better
good.
make sure you're going to be boning up on all your rules and regulations of the road. Because I'd hope to see
as I'm driving along in my Merc, work, I'm constantly thinking, am I applying the highway code to what I'm doing?
And presumably the answer is always no.
No, the answer is always yes. I like to set an example.
Do you?
I know exactly the distance I've got to be from the car in front of me in case there's an emergency braking situation.
Really?
So you can test me on that by any means.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I can't, well, as you know, I have nothing to do with the questions. But, we'll see what
that's what you say.
The independent quizmasters come up with. Anyway, once again, a fantastic night. Sorry I beat you at the boxing. But
No.
Well, the video is available on 2 Mics TV.
So far, I've got the strongest punch.
No, you lost the fight.
I have. It's on the
lost
wall.
The fight.
No.
You're talking rubbish.
I got over 700. You didn't.
You're talking rubbish.
Weakling.
It's all there to be seen on video. You can watch it on the 2 Mics TV. You can follow us on Twitter at the 2 Mics. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mics.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the 2 Mics. I've outpunched you.
Yeah, well, you haven't outpunched me.
I have outpunched you.
The deal was we had 1 punch each. You had 3 goes. I had 1 go. And you didn't manage to beat me after 3.
I was perfecting my technique.
Well, it's too late for that. I mean, if you're in a fight, there's no point in you perfecting your technique once you're flat out on the canvas.
I am up on the board
You've
there,
already lost.
And I'm above you.
The fight's over.
7-2-7.
No, the fight is already over.
No, it's not. It's not.
The fight is already over.
Listen.
I won't bother with the machine. I'll just punch you. How about that?
The puffin will be in your back garden within years.
If you love the 2 Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Loca Calita Coco, or if it's called.